everybody, and welcome to the Old Moon Podcast, episode 73, right?
Yes.
Yes,
no,
sir. Dude,
wow.
I nailed that. 4 weeks it's been, I think, right? Or is it 3? Has it been 3 weeks? Might have been 3 weeks. It's been a second since the Old Moon Podcast happened because we have been playing Throne and Liberty a lot to talk about how terrible that game is so that we can all come back and play Black Desert. I am Blue Squadron, as always, one of your hosts, joined by Jakun.
Hi, my name is Jakin VT. I do a lot of endgame content such as Olins, the dungeons, party boss splits. I've been playing a lot of another MMO lately, and you can find me live over at twitch.tv/JakinVT, V before the T.
Right on, Jay.
Happy Halloween.
Jay, where is the community highlights videos, bro? You got every 4 days. You should be cranking those.
Okay.
Where are those?
I've just been really into the game.
I know. I have the same thing. And we'll talk about that in a second. Blonde, how have you been enjoying Black Desert and then not so Black Desert lately?
Hi, I'm Blonde Bear. You can catch me at twitch.tv/Blonde Bear. I played 2 days of Throne and Liberty, hit max level, logged out, haven't logged back in. It was fun for a minute. It was nice. I did some dungeons with Jay. I enjoyed that. And then they had a treasure event in BDO, so I've been grinding my brains out for that because grinding anything but City of the Dead is better. So I've been kind of living at Iserhood. I did get a Sovereign weapon too, which was kind of nice. And
wow,
that's at Penn. And so I'm working on my second one right now. So yeah.
I respect it.
And I like to party.
The people playing BDO right now, I just want to point this out. I'm just going to hide this for a second. Belle Delphine fan. That's an interesting name. That's crazy. In the server chat right there. That being said, there's a lot to talk about because we haven't met in a few weeks over this hype here, and I'm sure that we will get into that discussion as well. But the first thing that we should really talk about is the dev note. I assume that all players at this point have talked about the dev note, have seen the dev note, and have developed their opinions on this. I will say that the like-dislike ratio on the dev note video, at least for the English version, is more dislikes than likes. But it's something like a 55% to 50%. So yeah, it's definitely pretty split. I think that there were elements of the dev talk that people really liked, and then there were elements that people really did not like, and people were kind of split on it. As for my take on it, I already posted my reaction to it, the whole thing. I know that I would say about half of it was kind of people call it dooming, but it was just negatively received. Half of it or so was negatively received, particularly the PvP half, and then the other half I think that were overall relatively positive changes for the game, minus one or two things here and there that are particularly bad, but overall, I'd say it was kind of 50-50 on my end. A lot of people saw it as dooming because whenever I complain about the game, that's oh my god, he's just a doomer. But it was kind of like a 50-50. But I do not think that the dev note was good enough to bring back the player base to where it was before. But I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on it were, because neither of you posted really a react to it or have discussed it yet. So Blonde, you're typically our beacon for positivity, as it were. Anti-doomer, right, Lon? That's you. What did you think about the dev note, the pieces of the dev note?
In general, it was nice. I liked it. I like anytime the dev team talks to the community, addressing things that are constantly being talked about in the community. I think that in general, this is of any communication, this is a way they're going to communicate. And although I wish they were more frequent, any kind of communication is better than it being a blackout. Although some people would disagree. They'd think that, they'd prefer something good in their eyes rather than nothing. They'd prefer nothing rather than, something that was maybe addressing their personal issue or whatever. But on the whole, I think it's good. I think we can go topic by topic because I have the summary screenshots that they posted on the website post, so we can go over each of the individual ones. But in general, I thought it was nice. The apologies, of all the times that they've done apologies, these ones felt actually sincere with an actual explanation, which kind of made some logical sense. I mean, logical in some ways, but I think it was nice. Whether I think it was good or not, I mean, in the particular things that I like about the game, I think it's going to be a positive swing for certain things. On the PvP side, Node War side, I feel bad for you guys. I don't think they're ever going to get that back in the positive side of the game. Cooked. So we can go over that when we go into specifics. So generally, I was happy with it. I was like, okay, this is nice. Now let's do one every month or something like that, because as we'll get into the dev talk, they kind of announced the next month of junk, and then we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, we'll see there. Jay, really quickly before we break it down topic by topic, what are your overall thoughts on the dev note? Like positive, negative? Like where were you at? Mixed? Like,
I mean, the dev commentary was okay for me. I didn't really have anything that really like made me jump out of my seat, and I definitely agree with Blonde that communication is important. And yeah, I would like to have more videos like this where they lay out what they have, what plan they have in store for us that allows us players, to give more feedback, and feedback is important for improving the game. When they came to the part about like the Karazad accessories, it's more powerful and something to aim and strive for again, but I've kind of been running in the same circle to grind for my things for the last 4 years. The majority of the time grinding for my progression, I would say like 75% was spent in Olin's Valley, and 25% of it consisted of like Elvia zones, the dungeons, and now we have Dekia Olin, so we're back at it again at Olin's Valley. So when they did announce the Land of Winning grind zones, that's what caught my attention the most. Like the devs always talk about how it was, Land of Winning Light is such an inspiring zone for them to work on. It's based off their country where they live in, which is Korea, and but they only had their players visit there during the quest line and then the boss splits, and then later they added a function to fast travel there, so there was even less reason to go back other than for knowledge grinding or whatever. So I'm glad that they are finally planning to add more monster zones to Land of Morning Light, but the grind spots really need to add, it needs to be more than just a tower. So hopefully they create something innovative for the grind spot to make it more exciting than just a tower grind spot. And yeah, as for the Node War and PvP section of the commentary, I felt like there was nothing to really write home about. It was kind of short, and I think for me, all I remember was them saying they needed more time to add the function to give players to have that old Node War system back, or do the new Node War system for the week. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about the PvP announcement. That's
okay. I'll speak on it for. Don't worry. We'll hit the PvP first, since I know that's what most players don't give a crap about. Let's just be honest. Most players are like, yeah, the PvP changes, whatever. But you can't. You have to acknowledge that it was the PvPers that suffered the hardest and left the game first, and then everyone else kind of collapsed behind them. So they kind of lead the charge on like if the PvPers are really unhappy, it's not going to be long before the PvEers and stuff are unhappy. So in this case, the PvP side of the dev note, I've said this many times, it was really bad. Really bad. The fact that they're introducing a band-aid fix, essentially what they're going to do is they're going to give us the choice or the winning guild of each region, or at least for uncapped only, is my understanding. The winning guild of the uncapped region will get to choose whether or not they do the old Node War system or the new Node War system, which sounds good on paper unless you actually PvP. And in this case, one, that gives the players a little bit too much power, in my opinion. I think that you could just troll the whole server, for starters. Number two, it didn't actually address the problem of 75-man Node Wars on Uncapped. What do you think is going to happen here? You think that everyone's just going to come back and play the 75-man Node Wars? We can't pull 75 people to a total Node War nowadays. You can't even get 4 guilds to show up for Node Wars nowadays, and that's on any cap at this point. So it's just a little rough to try and think that would be something that would fix it. Add on top of that, the fact that they said it's not even ready. They said it'll come in 2 months, right? It's like, oh, okay, so we understand you're not... Well, they didn't even... And this is the biggest thing that was really irked me as a PvPer, is that they apologized for a decent amount of stuff. There were 2 apologies, I think, in the dev note. As Blonde said, they did seem sincere with those, but they took the smaller things and they apologized for them. They praised themselves about the current Node War system and said how, oh god, look how positive our feedback has been, and look how good it is. So many players really enjoying the new Node War system, but they didn't really acknowledge or apologize to the PvPers for any reason, which I think was really bad. You just need to admit that your current Node War system it's not working. Worldwide, you've killed Node Wars for every single region in the game. There's some copers out there that say that Asia still has a Node War scene, but then you look at their Node Wars and they got 3 guilds or something. So that it's cooked too. It's you just need to admit that, okay, yeah, this was wrong, and you need to introduce a new system, right? Or like an actual fix. A band-aid fix 2 months from now is simply not going to work, and the reason is If you think of a PvP guild, you should think of it as kind of a machine. I've compared it to like a fan blade motor before. If you've ever noticed on fan blades or like on fans, you notice the highest setting is the first one you tick it to. It's like 3, 2, 1. You tick it over, right? That's because the fan needs a kickstart to get going. It's very difficult for the fan motor to start, especially if there's not like a big jolt of activity to kind of get it going in the first place. That's why the motors are set this way. Siege guilds and PvP guilds in BDO are very similar. Once you get the machinery in place, it'll just run forever. Like, no big deal. But like things like Cho Nation, Digital, Corrupt, Atlas, and all these other guilds that have kind of fallen apart over, and Barcode and all them that have kind of fallen apart, and all of the EU scene as well. All of that machinery has now stopped moving. So as long as the machine is moving, it's not that big of a deal. Like, people are still going to show up for war. You still have people dropping the base. You still have people negotiating politics and setting up fights. All of that machinery is moving. Once it stops moving, you need a jump start to bring those back into motion. Okay, so in this case, simply band-aid fixing and giving us the option to fight on Uncapped with the old Node War system is not nearly enough to bring people back to that PvP system for any reason. You need a full jump start to bring us back. So to bring PvPers back, you would need to completely rework the Node War system, or give us a PvP system, a large-scale PvP system that people are going to get excited about, like a new one. And they did not do that. They gave us, like I said, a band-aid fix, thinking that their players will come back to play PvP, and that's just not going to happen. Now, again, I don't want to sound like a doomer, but this is like the part of the dev note that was really the most negative. That was the most poorly received, I think, aspect of the entire dev note, as there was really no positive light at the end of the tunnel for PvPers for any reason. So PvPers are not going to come back and play BDO, not over the next few months. It is what it is. Now, let's move towards the more positive aspects of the dev note. Okay, go ahead, Blonde.
I wanted to comment on your Node War commentary. I think that you're hitting like some really key points, talking about old parts, old machinery not moving like a fan, right? I think that's such an apt description, because I feel like all the old parts are like, they're so old and rusted, and just like it's not working. We need a whole new machine.
Correct.
In which, when you're saying jumpstart, makes me think we got to throw out the old PC and bring in a new one, right? Yeah. We need some brand new, like, I don't think any fix to the Node War system, because right now it's like you get like buffs and rewards and money, and everything's there that should have been in the older systems, but now you've got it on a system you don't want to play. All these new systems and all the things they've done to Node War is absolutely, it's like the Godfather meme. Look at how they've massacred my boy, right? Like, it's nothing what it used to be, but it has some rewards. So like, maybe the new generation they're thinking of players is incentivized to go do those things, like the PvE side of players, but like no PvPers are wanting to do this thing. And when you say a new jumpstart, in my mind, the only thing that's coming up is like a whole brand new system, like not Node Wars, not this or that, something else, like sort of like AOS, sort of like the Guild League, but something that just gets a bunch of people to go fight in areas. I mean, like, even what is it RBFs are like empty these days, right? Because people just aren't incentivized to go and do those things. I don't even necessarily know if it has to be money or anything in particular, because right now the Node Wars do have some pretty good rewards, I'm pretty sure, with the buffs and the money and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't even think that's it. I just think that the negative sentiment from them just not listening for such a long time has just made it so people are just like,
it's rough.
Even if it's something good, it's like one good thing and 10 bad things. It's like, people I think have completely dropped it. And I think it needs a whole new, like you said, jump start, because I don't think that even rewards. It has to be the system in place that changes.
Yep. Yeah, and that's 100%. The thing I want to add to is that I could have articulated more, is that the old system is not good enough. You can't just bring us back the old system and expect guilds to come back.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The old system had its own flaws.
Right. Yeah. They've done it for years. They want something new.
The old system had its own flaws and its own problems. And that is simply not going to cut it anymore, because now, again, all of these other guilds have quit now, and they're not just going to come back to play the old system. That's not good enough. It needs to be something new, and fresh, and is actually good. And in order to get that, you're going to have to pull in actual PvPers from around the world and ask their opinions. Like, sincerely, I think if they just flew out 2 or 3 representatives from each country, from like top-end PvP leadership guilds, like, they could pay for their entire trips, all expenses paid. Have them come, give them the feedback in Korea, give them the feedback on like an actual panel. and build a system that follows what they tell them to do, they would make millions of dollars. They could literally, like, they would make millions of dollars off the players coming back to the game and the excitement that new systems like that would bring. But again, it doesn't even have to be flying them in. They could just like Discord call with people or like listen to them on a panel. Like all they would have to do is listen to their community, but they need to actually listen. And this is a big problem that I think Choice has done an excellent job of explaining, is in his dev talk discussion and then some of his other comments that I can't explain, but like Perlibus for some reason just always thinks, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Perlibus just always seems to think that they know what's best for the community, even if the community's screaming that they want one thing, Perlibus does another. And so like if we want one thing, they won't even if they concede and give us that thing, it will be like half or 30% of what we wanted, and then it'll be like their vision of it. No, in this case, you don't know how to build a good PvP system. We could build a better one if you just listen to us. If they listened to their actual players and followed 90% of what they said, they would do much better. They would create a system that I think would drive a lot of players back to the game. Let's be honest, we have the best in genre combat, right? But like as it is, giving us the band-aid fix is really going to do nothing positive for the community. But let's move on to the I'm not trying to doom. It's just that I wanted to talk about like the negative stuff.
They like disabled Node Wars, War of the Roses, all this stuff, and almost like starved the community of these things, that then introducing a whole new system, like say they spent like the last 6 months to a year developing a whole new, not Node War, but some kind of fighting war thing that people can PvP in, and they starve the community by taking that stuff out, and then like it floods back in with a new thing. would that even work? Because I feel like people are just, I think at this point it just feels like people are just exhausted, right? They want something new, but they're also like, ugh, like bro, I'm like tired because I've been trying all this stuff. Like I wonder if that would be something. I mean, I'm not incentivizing like starving the community of what they want, but I mean, for example, Throne and Liberty, people have been wanting open world PvP and fighting, and Throne and Liberty's come at this kind of perfect time for everybody to hop on and be like, oh my god, I'm getting everything. I'm running around, I'm PvPing, everything's open world, we're all killing each other. Like that's, you know, the fun that people wanted is kind of being addressed in that kind of way. Not perfectly, you know, but
oh god, no.
In like, some ways it's like scratching that itch, right?
It is, for now. And like the biggest problem, yeah, and again, this is just PvPers. We're just talking about the PvPers right now. We're going to talk. Most of this discussion is going to be about everyone else because everyone else matters way more. And like I think that they're headed in a certain, and this is where I'm going to say I don't think they really care too much. I think that they're just going to give us the Band-Aid fix, and then that's going to be it probably. I think the game has fundamentally, quintessentially shifted away from PvP. And it's time for the PvPers. I think that PvPers just are moving on to other games, and that's just the way that it goes. Perlibus wants their game to be a PvE-focused MMO, casual MMO, and that's just it. It is what it is, right? And that's why now let's go ahead and shift. Unless Jay, you have something to add, let's go ahead and shift our discussion over to the Karazhan. Go ahead.
It's gonna be okay. I may have okay. What I would like to add is that I have brain rot, and all I could think about was when you were talking about electric fans and the fan blades, was being a kid and talking to the fan to sound like a robot, and I just remember having so much fun until I was bored, and that's all I'd like to add. So
okay, so Jay's been zoned out. I do want to address somebody in the chat said revive the game, ban Blue, easy fix, he's too influential of a doomer. I have actually not been doing any Doom content for the last week or so. I have not, and you'll notice the game has still been declining hard. It's not my fault.
It's not me.
It's not me.
It's not me, guys.
I've been away from the Doomer content. I have very intentionally only posted content that is like more positive about the game and more reasonable about the game. I'll probably do some gear advice today as well. Like again, I'm trying to be like a reasonable influence on the game, but like it's no secret that the game is declining. I think that there's copers out there that blame the content creators, and like sure, the content creators don't necessarily help, I guess, but like they are helping in the sense that like they're the only way that we can reach the developers. At least that's what the community feels.
I agree on that point. I do think that you know, commentators, you know, the people in the commentary community, the content creators also have a way of shaping the community in a way. I think that obviously you're on some copium if everybody's like plastered on smiles, like the game is good, guys, the game is good.
Yeah, obviously, like what are we talking about? Yeah, like what's happening?
But
like
I think that there's a way for us to always put a positive spin on things, which, you know, it can be tough, but you know, I think it shapes it in a way for sure.
Right. But I just want to address that a little bit, as Rita's one of my regular viewers. I hope that they were joking, but like I really have been making
Rita's trolling, bro. Of course.
Yeah. Well, I've been really trying to like put out content that is more positive about the game, which is why the majority of this discussion is going to be more positive. But like that was kind of like the PvP discussion, and that's not dooming. That's not really dooming. That's really just being real. Yeah, we're just being real. Yeah. Like the game's moving away from PvP.
No copium.
It is what it is. Now let's talk about the more fun stuff, which is the Karazad accessories. The Karazad accessories are a very exciting shift in the progression system of BDO. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on it real quick are. Jay, we'll start with you since you haven't gotten to talk a whole lot. What are your thoughts on the Karazad accessories?
Mikaela just gifted 5 subs.
It's, as mentioned before, it's a new powerful accessory that we're going to be all working towards. It allows us to utilize our Deboreka accessories again to, it's not going to be a waste, right? Our Deboreka accessories are going to be useful for that. But at the same time, again, it all depends on what we're going to be able to use these accessories for, right? What kind of content for. And I'm really hoping that, again, the Land of Morning Light grind spots give us that something, because it's just going to be like, I just grind for my Karazad accessories and then I go back to Olin's Valley and then repeat until I have everything. And so even though we're getting something more, something to aim for, to strive for again, I don't want to be running in that same circle over and over again for, that thing. So I really, really hope that they give us some content to use this pieces of gear on. So
yeah,
that's all. Yeah.
Okay, Blonde, what's your take on the Karazad accessories overall?
Overall, I think it's a positive swing in the right direction, right? I think that for the last year plus, people have been plagued with the concept of needing 30 bill for 11,000 crons to do from the vendor, because they're not getting costumes, so that they can buy crons and go click on a debo, watch it downgrade, then spend another 10 bill for 2405 crons for the tech click, then fail that, then downgrade, and they're just like, okay, I'm down bad, guess I'm logging out for a week, right? I think that in the sense of that image, I think the game is in a positive upswing with this specific update, because what this does is basically crons no longer downgrade, which is what people have been begging for a long time for the accessories. And now instead of doing...
They don't disappear. They do downgrade.
They downgrade...
Yes, they do.
No. Failure does not destroy it. Cronstones will stop the downgrade.
I take it back. Yeah. So cronstones, if you use cronstones, no matter what, it cannot disappear. But if you use cronstones, it cannot downgrade. Right?
Yeah, essentially the accessories will now become armor and weapons.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I thought the same thing first, and I was like, wait. But I pulled up the page so I don't misquote it, right? I got the exact dev commentary summary. But so now, like, this thing that's been plaguing people is the downgrading system, reinvesting into a material, and this was prior to pities. Now we've had pities. I think that this system is just everything everybody's been asking for, right? Now we have pities, which are at a reasonable rate, right? I think that the sovereign weapons are pretty decent on their rates. We now have 10 levels of enhancement. So instead of me having to grind a week straight, 2 weeks straight to get 30 billion crons to do one pen debo click, now I can get 1,000 crons, I can get 1,200 crons, I can get 13, 1,500, however many the amounts are, right? Because we're looking at like the sovereigns, for examples. These are much easier, reasonable goals. And although they are smaller upgrades, I think it is way easier for me to set a goal. Like, I'll grind 2 hours. Oh, okay. That's like, by tomorrow I'll be able to click. I'll do an attempt. I'll do an attempt today, maybe, depending on what stage of the gear. Obviously, I'm looking at 8, 9, 10. But for this is the minority of the players. You're looking at a majority. Now players are technically just like the debos. They are funneled into one specific gear system. But what this does with the upcoming thing is the unique crystal slot to create add-on crystals that then alter the accessory. So I think they're answering multiple problems on top of the fact that these materials also use old materials. So similar to your favorite game, Blue RuneScape, they use all of the pre-game systems to upgrade into the new game systems, which I think is it's W after W after W. I know the main criticism is going to be, but crons. Listen, I get it. It's not the funnest, but at least you're not doing an 11,000 cron click. You're doing a 1,000, a 1,500, a 2,000, right? I think that, if it's not crons, it's going to be low drop rates for the material to enhance it. If it's not that, it's going to be, you're going to need an absorbent amount of silver for some other upgrade. So on the general point, I think it's a massive W, to be honest.
I think that overall, I think it was a W. I do not think it was a massive W. I think this is part of what like made it such a mixed review from the community. Is I think that in one area you have the Karazad, you finally have some build diversity. Okay, so you're taking away some build diversity in that now you need 6 Karazads no matter what. Before you only need 5 Debos, and then you can replace the last accessory slot with whatever you wanted. Okay, well now you can't do that. Now you have to have 6 Karazad. However, it doesn't. It's 1 step back, 2 steps forward for build diversity, right? And that's what I think people like. They found a good area where, you know, you build your 6 Karazad and then you equip it with whatever crystals that you want, and these crystals cannot break. And the crystals are very impactful, like gear stats, where like you're either getting evasion or DR or accuracy or whatever. And we're getting some much needed build diversity overall in the build pattern of BDO. Yes, you're losing some build diversity and having all 6 Karazads, but you're gaining some. So again, 1 step forward or 1 step back, 2 steps forward in that regard. I think that the part that makes it really controversial, like Blonde said, and the biggest criticism of the Karazad accessories overall, is the fact that they're still Omega reliant on Cronstones. I'm not sure what the developers were thinking with regards to this. Like they said that, like, you know, it's not going to require crons as much for players anymore. Well, yeah, it does, right? It's not like you're going to get it to Hex and then be like, risk a downgrade, right? Because you could go right back to base. Like of course players are required to use Cronstones for this enhancement. It's obnoxious to think that they wouldn't be. Yes, it doesn't blow up, and I guess that feels pretty good, but like also it's going to downgrade, which stinks, you know, like, and so players are still going to be required to use crons, and we're still in the same situation that we were in before, where there's just too many Cronstones being used for not enough gear. I don't know how to say it. It's just too much Cronstones. The reliance on Cronstones is a very controversial hot button topic. And like, again, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. The only way we're ever going to get off Cronstones is if they monetize the game around something that isn't Cronstones. Currently, the game is completely monetized around Cronstones and buying outfits off the market to get more Cronstones. That's basically the where they make most of their money, and they're not willing to sacrifice that. I think that if they took a step away from that as their monetization and went towards cosmetics, as there's a number of things they could do, more emotes, more dances, skill effects on weapons, special weapon skins that cost a lot of money, right? Like they could do a lot of different things and step away from Cronstones. And then at that point, Cronstones don't become as much of an issue anymore, because you can just give players Cronstones without losing your bottom line income. So like Cronstones themselves are really not a super problem. The problem that Cronstones create is that you can shortcut your gear by spending money or by waiting for the market. So people feel that either one of two things is happening. Either they feel pressured to pay to win and buy outfits from the market, buy outfits from the Pearl Shop, or they feel pressured, like they feel like their content is time gated, like they can only do a click every so many days because they have to wait to get their outfits off the marketplace. And time gated content and then like forced pay to win content does not feel very good. Or you can literally grief yourself by buying Cronstones from the vendors. So like, you know, like you're asking a player to just throw away more hours of their life so that they can do more attempts more frequently. That just doesn't feel very good. And again, this is why we're in this situation. And crons wouldn't be that big of a deal if they were able to give us, you know, if they were able to hand away a bunch of Cronstones regularly. I don't think that anyone would care. But like the fact that that's where the primary pay to win system in the game comes in, and also the time gating that it takes to buy these Cronstones from the marketplace. Yeah, that's where a lot of the criticism for the Karazads is going to come in. And I don't disagree with that criticism. I think they offered us a solution for build diversity, but did not offer us a solution for the Cronstone thing. They made us more reliant on Cronstones than we were before, because the other, like the 6th accessory, you didn't necessarily need to cron. Now you have to cron your 6th accessory too. So like, yes, it's going to take less crons per enhancement click, but it's just Cronstones everywhere. It's just literally Cronstones everywhere. Now,
I do agree with the sentiment, because the alternative is we go back to like back in the day when it was like pry to pen armor and weapons, right? You would raw tap up to Tet, and then if you felt risky and had a bunch of materials, you'd raw tap pen, because we weren't cronning back then because we didn't make as much required silver.
Yep.
So like, but you didn't feel required. So I agree the alternative is that, but that system back then, we had like empty markets and we had no silver gain. So I feel like that system was built by, like, the system was enabled by the fact that we didn't have resources and money, right? You had to grind out hards and sharps by going and life skilling in the game. You didn't have those plentiful in the market. I just think
I was waiting at the NPC, just like the central market.
Right. Yeah, exactly. now
the sharps.
Exactly. Now you have a system where the markets are plentiful, the gold, the silver generation is plentiful in the game, and so the only way to really curb that is by having essentially a silver sink. I do agree, and I wrote this down. I do agree that all the miniature things you do in the game, like doing your rift bosses, I get 5 crons for my rift boss. Like my next upgrade is 11,000 crons, right? Why am I not getting like 100 crons from this? I think that there's so many of those older supplemental systems in the game that if they just buffed the crons by like 100 to 200%, you could get so much more value out of things. But I agree with your point that they don't want to incentivize that, because they want to incentivize people buying crons for outfits and selling and stuff like that too. I think that if that was curbed, maybe they could buff those systems rather than like I know you said giving them out. I obviously understand that you probably mean like systems in the game that give you crons essentially, right? Like if the crons were buffed from Pit of Undying, if the new reworked Altar of Blood gave crons depending on, you know, what wave you got to weekly. If the boss blitzes, like right now the boss blitzes are nuts. The weekly group boss blitz, you're getting memory fragments, you're getting a bunch of other accessories, you're sometimes getting the crystals, you're getting the coins from the new region, so you can rebuy crystals if you break them. There's so many of these little things sprinkled in that it's like, man, can we take this new system that we just got and sprinkle these essentially crons into these old systems? Like there's so many of these things that they could just kind of sprinkle them throughout, and it wouldn't feel like it was overwhelming, but it would incentivize the players to not just grind. I haven't done my Dark Rift bosses in months, because why do I want 5 crons or an accessory worth 20 million silver? Like I have no incentive to do that.
Well,
but you know, if those crons
right?
were like, it is a little time gated, but you know, if we have like 20 different time gated systems, there's always going to be something for you to do, right? Even for the average player that only grinds like 1 to 2 hours a day, I'll go grind for an hour to 2 hours, then I'll go do my Dark Rift boss, take a few minutes. Like there's all these little systems they could add to enhance that sort of thing, and the fact that it only drops like 5 crons here, 10 crons there is such a I don't understand why they don't buff that kind of stuff. And the same thing back onto the point of like upgrading the pry through pen. Back in the day, you had to do life skills to get sharps. That way you could enhance your gear. Life skills have been completely, not to get on a doomer point, but they've been kind of neglected on a massive point. Like the only thing worth doing is hunting. Like I think that's the only profitable like life skill, right? Other than like I guess bartering, but that's like, do you time bartering based on time spent actually bartering, and then you log off, and then it's like, oh well, over an hour I made like 5 billion silvers. I don't think you calculate it that way, but yeah, it's
I think that
it can go with some criticism for sure.
If they like, it's bad for, like I said, the 2 reasons before. It's pay to win, time gated, feels bad, right? If you add like a lot more crons, I'm not talking like, guys, we buffed, somebody in chat said this, so I'm just going to use it shamelessly. Guys, we buffed Garmoth Cronstone out by 200%. Oh, great. Now I'm getting 4 crons. You know what I mean? Like, oh, sweet. Like, no. It's got to be hundreds, right? If they gave away...
Do a Dark Rift, get 100, you know?
If they gave away Cronstones regularly for events and stuff, people would feel like it's less time-gated, and they would feel less pressured to, like, do the pay-to-win stuff. And that people would probably appreciate that more. So, like, I think it's a workable system. Like, I don't think that... Nobody really cares if it relies on Cronstones. We've been on Cronstones for a while. It's just that lately they just keep upping the Cron price without increasing the availability, which means that, and for obvious reasons, right? Because it's money.
It's their bottom line.
Yeah, it's money. They're never going to... Like, that's why everybody keeps saying they need to give away more Crons. They're never going to do that.
It's not possible.
Yeah, they won't make any money. So, like, yeah, I'm just... Again, I think that but focusing on the positive.
Right.
Like, that's the controversial issue, right? The positive thing is, I don't think anybody disagrees. The adding the crystals, like enchantments, to those Cronstones is a good thing. This is a win.
Yeah,
right.
They mentioned that it's going to have accuracy, damage reduction, and then they say etc. Every person I've talked to, when I'm like, bro, like Vahas are going to have a minus DP plus AP variant. They're going to have like an evasion variant. They're going to, like, it blows my mind. I've talked to a few people and they're like, no. They only said accuracy and DR, and I'm like, that's not the only accessory type. We have Vahas and Distos and Ominous and Dawns and this. Like, we've got so many types. It kind of is so weird. Everybody's like, no, they're not going to do that, and I'm like, why wouldn't they? Like,
I don't think they are. Blonde, I'm just going to say,
if they're going to have a DR variant and also these new artifacts that are DR and HP, there's no way they wouldn't add an AP. Like, that would be crazy mind blowing that they wouldn't, right?
Blonde, I think they're only going to have like 4 of them. I think that if they were going to have like
Really?
15, yeah, and the reason is
Why wouldn't they just say that
Don't
though?
you-
They say
yeah,
accuracy,
well,
damage reduction,
here's the deal.
etc. So there's only
Hold
2
on.
more in those,
Think
etc.
about it, yeah. Well, think about it, Blonde.
No way.
Wouldn't they show us if there was gonna be guys? Look at all these 15 different. There's gonna be like
No.
a bunch of different. Don't you
No
think that they
way.
would have
They're gonna
showed us
have-
that in the dev
Dude,
note
no
if they
way.
were gonna give it? I don't
No.
know, man. I think it's
Dude,
kind of
no.
cope, bro.
Think of every accessory we have. We have an AP, we have accuracy, we have DR, we have evasion, we have a BSR regen, and then there's potential for more. I know Jay has talked about this. Jay Kuhn right here has talked about,
hi.
I want all these abilities to have variants on them, like HP this or
Yes.
this and that. This is that way that he's been talking about for a long
Yeah,
time.
I'd love it
In
too.
the future, potential for this is like, say we go to Demon Land, and Demon Land has a special crystal, a new accessory or crystal thing that turns into an accessory crystal that's like, oh, it's special demon damage, and then you enhance your stuff by getting upgraded crystals. Like there's so much potential for the system that opens up. It's a wide variety of ways to
let's-
continuously upgrade these things.
Let's be clear, Blonde. It doesn't mean that they might release it with like 4 or 5 options, but that doesn't mean that they can't add more later.
For sure,
Right?
for
like
sure.
that's,
I think they will.
I'm not
I
trying to
think they
doom
will
about it.
eventually.
I just think that sincerely,
No,
when
of
it
course.
does come out, I think there's probably only going to be like 4 or 5, and then they hopefully just
Maybe initially.
expand on
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
I
they
could
just
agree with that. Maybe
expand on it
initially,
up to like 10. You know what I mean? And like
Sure.
then you have your options, right? So again, I think that the Charizard is a step in the right direction for PvE build diversity. I think that overall people had mixed feelings about it, but like,
Yeah.
and I think that PvE players will eventually come back to play the game. And like progression based players will probably come back to play the game at least somewhat based on the change. Although I will say that if you look through the comments and stuff, and obviously the people that are the most upset are going to be the most vocal, but like most of the comments
Sure.
are based around the Kron thing. I don't think that anyone is saying that the design on the Charizard is necessarily the worst thing. Again, like it's the focus on the Krons, and like I don't know if they're actually going to be able to get away from it. They haven't really acknowledged that Kron
I mean, look at
stones
it
are a
this way.
problem.
It's like if it's not Krons, it's going to be what it was before Krons, which was the fact that we had no materials. And if it's no materials, then it's the fact that it takes a lot of play time. So it's always going to boil down to this is the only way they know how to time gate us based on how much billions of silver we make versus how much they want people to progress in the game while also being at, low rates for succession. I think that it's the only like way that they quote unquote time gate the game without time gating it by essentially letting it be, if you want to grind this out, you have all the capability. I think that it's always just going to boil down to that. And I think that Krons with pity with the current system is going to be better than leaving it completely up to RNG, because back when it was just you could go 20 hours without a Debo dropping, that was, I think people were way more frustrated about those systems than they are. I mean, I think it's so easy because just saying the word Kron invokes a bunch of feelings. I think that it's so easy to just be like, it's the Krons, right? And I get the sentiment. I totally understand it. But it's going to be that, or it's going to be the next best thing, right? I think that it's just the nature of it, and that's what's led to BDO's longevity, right? The fact that people have been grinding this game since the beginning, and some people still have not caught up. I think that's, as much as people complain that that's the frustrating thing about the game. If you caught up in gear, you're in Jay Kuhn's boots right now, where he's like, yeah, I kind of been grinding the same spot, and I'm kind of bored. I wish there was something to do. Yeah, yes. That's not where you want to be. Trust me. Ask Jay. You don't want to be there. You want to have something exciting to go for. And like you said, Blue, you want to have something motivating, which we'll see in the next few panels of the dev commentary summary. I have some exciting stuff to talk about. So
I want to give Jay a chance to speak on this because Blonde and I have been kind of dominating the discussion.
Yeah.
Jay, go right ahead, buddy.
You're good. You pretty much covered everything that I was gonna say.
Okay, Jay, just taking all our points, huh?
I agree. Yeah. The Kron stones, the C word. Don't say it. It's gonna invoke a lot of
Well, how do you feel about the new accessories? Do you think it's a positive,
Yeah,
like a
what do you
big
think
bonus to the
overall?
game, or did you?
Okay, I'm really excited for if they plan to take it further, as as you mentioned before about expanding upon it to maybe affect even maybe special, your skills, right? Like maybe I'm taking a little bit too much from TNL, but they have like the skill specializations. That's what I've been talking about in the podcast for the last like year and a half that we've been doing this, is a way to customize those abilities. I always bring up the class of witch, right? Like what if Voltaic was not just a Well, yeah, what if Voltaic wasn't like a circular AoE, and it's not that it's a line AoE that's like long range, right? That's something you can maybe spec into, and so maybe these accessories could be a way to get into that. And so I mean, all we can do is, I guess, just wait and see what they. You said there was like only 4, right? Four.
They teased like 4, right, Blonde? It was like
teased 4. Okay.
Yeah, something around there.
We need more than 4.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough, but like, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, no, I agree. And I actually want to touch on, I'm going to use Blonde as a shameless segue here, off the dev note, unless there's more, you want to talk about here.
Oh, there is more I do want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead, Blonde.
Okay, so we talked about Karazad. Actually, I wanted to probe your point, or the point of Karazad. What do you think about them giving a free +1? People that are at Pen Devo now go to 9, and now we only have one more upgrade to go.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Where's my infinite content, bro?
I
gotta click a 0.5 chance to succeed on a 10. This is insane.
Yeah. Okay, so
what's up with that?
All right, let me explain something. They're giving, so for those of you that don't know, they're giving, if you have a Pen Deboreka, you're going to get a Nuve enhancement, which means you get the grade above what a Pen Debo would be equivalent to when you turn it in for the new accessory, and then you only have one more enhancement to go. If you have a Tet Debo, you're getting the equivalent turn in. You're not getting the upgraded version. So I think that this is bad for 2 reasons, and like I understand that like this is a bit of a hot take, but like I'm gonna be honest. I think that rewarding your end game, like the players that already went through the crons and got their debos, blah 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 blah, like the rich get richer.
Feeding into that sentiment real hard right now.
I'm just being honest. Like I think that rewarding the players that already have pen debos and punishing the new and mid game players who, let's be honest, you're now making the game for, right? Like that's like paving the future. Is a mistake. I think that is not a good idea because you're basically punishing people for not having pen debos yet, and people are not going to be crazy happy about that, but it's really not that big of a deal. I think on the flip side of it, now, if you have a pen debo, congratulations. You now have the end game accessory, and you're basically done. You only have one more.
Yeah, you don't. Even with the new system, you don't have more to go. You have a pen fallen god to hit. That's what you have right now. It's like, wait a second, I wanted something realistic to go for.
Yeah, it's a little.
And now I'm freaking fricked, bro. Like this was supposed to be the next. You should have given us it should have been like 3 more levels of enhancement. Make my pen a 7. Make their tets like a 3 or 4, and then we got like a lot more progression. But then, then you feed into the sentiment like, well, I'm already grinding circles, now I gotta grind more circles. So I feel like the argument can kind of go both ways. Another thing is, now that we have these new accessories, we're not gonna be cheering at grind spots when we get a drop. I feel like that's something we're gonna kind of lose, unless they create a new drop. When I go grind at whatever new grind spot they're going to come out with, I'm not excited I got a Debo now. I'm going to be like, I mean, I guess because it's raw silver, sure, in that way, but I'm not like, oh, Pog, a drop, I'm going to click my gear. I feel like that's something that's going to kind of get lost in time. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be cheering for a new drop other than the fact that it's just going to be raw money. Kind of feels a little bad.
I mean, like, it feels a little bad for the end game players, I think, that only are going to get... And to be honest with you, I hate to be this guy, but it feels like really low effort content. Karazad feels extremely low effort. And like...
I think it was kind of obvious it was the next stage, right? What other direction can they go, right? This is it.
Are we going to like Quintep upgrade? You're just going to go to like 15? You're going to go to 20? Right.
Oh, I don't know what the next stage is. I think they're not going to be touching accessories for a while because this kind of sets up every accessory slot for every player.
People are going to be done on day 1. What are we talking about?
Whoa. Hold on. The end game players are going to be done when they hit the 9 and convert it. But there's no real incentive to go past 8. It's 1 AP and 1 accuracy, which isn't going to change or break a grind spot. Every upgrade before, I think 8 or 9 is like it's like 2 to 3 AP per click, and depending on the accessory, I think necklace will probably be more because we're obviously looking at the ring right now. But everything goes up. It's like 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and then 1 at the last 2 levels. So technically 8, 9, 10 is it's like essentially Fallen God. You're not going to click it because we're not even getting brackets at that level for it to even matter. The only thing that matters is 1 to 8. So I think like there is a reasonable amount of gap to clear for those players that are working on that. But I think that it's just silly. at the like. There's no, and this is what I've talked about. And I know the game's not focused on people that are like at the far end game, like me or Jay, right? We're looking at the mid game to new players. We want to incentivize new players, saying our new gear system is way better because you can just go throughout the whole thing rather than like picking and choosing and swapping accessories. But to look at the end game players a little bit, I'm sorry, spotlight on us. The fact that like there's no meaningful upgrade past this from 9 to 10. It's only 1 AP, and also even with the new weapons and everything, our brackets aren't even like massive. Although I know when they added brackets and added the what was the system where we had like the gear score or whatever.
That was Renown.
When we had Renown, people were awesome. They were excited about it initially, and then as soon as they figured out how broken it was, they were like, "Holy crap, this is horrible!" And it feels so weird for now to be like, "Well, where's our brackets, guys?" Like it's kind of like I get 1 AP and that's it. I find it so weird that we didn't get some crazier big brackets for more and more AP to incentivize players like Jay and I. There's nothing like, for example, Jay's not going to get a meaningful upgrade.
God, for maybe years. You bring up a good point. If they're not going to touch accessories for a while, shouldn't they have made it like the Pen Karazad equivalent to Pen Debo, and then let them enhance 5 levels or something?
I agree.
Like,
I agree. It should have been maybe something like that. However, I think that the new upgrades are not going to be vertical. I think they're going to be horizontal. I think everything's going to be new crystals that you implant into your gear. I think it's going to be a lot of horizontal upgrading, which, in my opinion, actually generally feels better than constant vertical upgrade, right? I think that this allows them an opportunity to, we've got augments on our like, what's going to happen to the cups with our accessories, right? Are they going to turn that into another augment or crystal? Like, I think you literally can't have them have cups on them, right? We've got the new crystals coming into that. And then I think that there's just going to be more and more of these like sort of horizontal stacking systems that make it so it's like you're not looking at like, oh man, I have such a massive length to fill. You're looking at, okay, I'm making meaningful progress, but I'm also horizontally expanding so much, which I think in general is a good system. Like some of the best games have a lot of horizontal gains rather than consistent vertical stuff, which feels bad sometimes, right? BDO leaves like a massive you could grind so many spots, and there's so many things to collect, and there's so many like the treasures and different stuff like that. There's a bunch of different spots. Well, if you want Kafirs, you're going to grind here because this drops a lot of Kafirs. If you want silver, there's a lot of silver in this spot. If you want raw trash because you don't want drop chance money, like there's that. There's a lot of these. It's expanding so much that like quite literally there's an option for every type of player with every type of opinion, specifically when it comes to grinding. Life skills and PvP aside, sorry bros, but when it comes to PvE, it's extremely expansive right now. If we boil it down to just grinding in circles, sure, we're only grinding in circles, but in the next slide or two, which I'm going to talk about, there's potential. So,
okay, let's talk about another positive thing from the dev note though. Land of the Morning Light is getting grind zones.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes.
Yay! More places to grind for our grind zones. Yay!
Oh my god. Listen, it's got to be somewhere. At least let's make it fun, right?
Yep, that's what I'm saying, bro.
Listen,
hell yeah, baby. Woo!
I'm not lying. As much as listen, people can be doomer about grinding in circles, bro. You're playing BDO. It's the circle grinding game, okay? The fun is the abilities, and the fun is the way the game looks and the costumes, okay?
Yeah.
If you're upset about grinding in circles, I don't think this game's made for you. First of all, second of all, these grind spots look awesome.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. To be clear, grinding in circles and enjoying it is, and then complaining about it publicly and then continuing to go do it, that's part of the gameplay loop of BDO.
Yeah, okay, true.
You're going to complain about, like, we've been complaining about this for years.
We're upset.
Oh, good.
Although I'm still
more
grinding
places.
every day.
We're like, oh, good. More places to go grind. What a loser. I can't wait to go do these. You know what I mean?
They're still grinding every day, bro.
Insane.
They can't log off.
Like, it's literally insane. You can complain about it all you want, but we actually enjoyed doing it. And so, like, giving us more grind zones, hopefully some of them are group grind spots, let's just be honest. And, like, what's really exciting about the Land of the Morning Light grind zones is that they're not just Dekia 7 or Dekia 8 or Elvia again. Like, please, God, make something new. You know what I mean? Like, these are going to be new grind zones. And watch them literally just be like, we brought sausage to Land of the Morning Light.
The potential's there, right? Like, for example, Mountain of Eternal Winter 2, one of the best, Mountain of Eternal Winter in general, one of the best grind spots, which was such a cool and interesting mechanic, was what was it? The spider one. No. Well, Jade
Oh.
was okay, but what was the spider one in the
that's
cave?
Mirrorwalk's Labyrinth.
Smurlock.
Marowak was super cool. You have no idea how many other people are fighting in this tunnel to summon a boss. That's essentially what the new
cool.
pig spot is, right?
Yeah, I love
so
that.
now it's like it's not technically a grind spot, but we're all kind of chilling in the same area, grinding, maybe chatting, and then you get a jackpot at the end. And maybe this is like similar to
You get a jack-
what was
you-
the
But, yeah.
you could get it stolen or whatever, like the rings were from whatchamacallit spot, the Dawn spot. What was it in the cave? The Shadow. I can't remember, but it was the duo spot where people come and PvP you and steal your boss.
Oh, Dawn earrings.
Yeah, it'd be like the Dawn earring
by
spot,
the
right? I don't know if
monastery,
this
by the monastery.
jackpot's gonna be like that or something. Yeah, monastery. Thank you. It could be like that, right? Incentivizing that sort of open worldness. There's a lot of potential for this. I'm actually really excited, but. A grind spot where you're all accumulatively acquiring a goal and doing a thing and then getting a jackpot. I think it's like more of this kind of just different stuff. So I'm super excited. That's the only one they technically showcased. They said there's going to be Honglin Base and Dokkaebi, but the Golden Pig Cave having the the jackpot. It's like, listen, if this is the new sort of incentive style, like, freaking yeah, that's awesome. I'm really excited. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's gonna mix things up a little bit. I think it's not really mix things up, but it's more actual stuff to do, which is good. Because we haven't gotten legitimate new grind zones in a while. They keep introducing Dekia.
It's just revamped old. Yeah,
and I'll be honest with you. For some reason, I don't know who gives them the feedback that we like the Dekia grind zones, but
dude, it feels like it's 2 to 3 years old feedback finally getting to them. Because I'm not gonna lie, 2 to 3 years ago, I did miss Mirmak, I did miss Skyfen, and then they revamped them a little bit, and it's okay, wait, we're getting Dekia 2 of them. I mean, it is gonna be nice for some of my older homies who are excited, but in general, it's bro, that wave that ship has sailed.
It's good.
No one's excited about that anymore because everything keeps being the revamp stuff, which. Maybe players that are returning from a long time ago, it's a little nostalgia, a little bit kind of, but it's okay, I want something new. Give me a new monster. Give me something crazy. I find it is weird that it's all just revamps, what I mean?
It's just really strange. I don't know. When it first started, they got really good feedback on it, and then every time they introduce a new zone, they're just like Cadres came out, and we're like, who asked? What are we talking about? I don't understand why they keep doing this. There's a lot of negative feedback on the Dekia content now because they've been doing it for so long. At first, it was okay, this is kind of cool, and now it's because they've just been doing it for years now. It's okay, well, are we actually gonna to get new stuff? Because the last time we got new grind zones, let's be honest, that was Ulakita, and they said that those were low effort, no mechanic grind zones. So people weren't really satisfied a crazy amount with Ulakita. They did them, right? A lot of people grind Yazrid and stuff like that, but it just really didn't scratch the itch fully. And then everything since then has been Dekia, and we're sick of Dekia. So the new Land of the Morning Light stuff is cool because it's new, you know what I mean? And I'm curious, I'm curious what's exactly going to drop there and stuff like that, and that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of play around with. I think it'll be really cool when it comes out in 2029. But seriously, I don't know when it's going to come out. I'm really hoping that it's right around the ball time in a couple months, but we will see. Okay, so anything else we want to talk about from the dev note? I'm gonna be honest. Are you guys good with a 2-hour podcast? Because this might be a 2-hour.
Yeah, I'm down.
Sure.
In a hot minute since we talked.
This might be because we've only hit the dev note so far, and we have not gotten to the other big discussion that we have. Have to go, and that's our own fault because honestly, it's not our fault. It's Jakun's fault. He's the one that keeps dodging the podcast every week for throwing Liberty like a rat.
Yeah, it's definitely the reason.
Yes.
The last thing I wanted to mention on the dev commentary summary is the fact that the last statement they made in the video and also on the panels they posted, hardcore servers are on the way, so that'll be something interesting, fun to do. Maybe I'm not really hyped about it, but for particular players that want to do that kind of stuff, it could revive something. You're going to be in the gulag having fun, stuff like that. If you like that, that's cool. But the main thing is that they said we're gearing up for content that'll inspire new goals as opposed to the recent expanding updates. Now, obviously, vague posting, so we can't really, it's all just speculation.
And that's the trick, is to be really vague so that we can cope on it.
Guys, we got some crazy stuff cooking right now. It's going to be crazy. Just wait. We got it cooking right now. Just like when they posted the freaking, what was it, at the ball, they posted the BDO 100,000 years in the past green Greenland, Valencia Desert. It's like, bro, I ain't gonna see that until I have kids, probably. Like, what the frick? Like, that's years in the making. Why are you telling me about this now? But it's inspiring the ideas, right? It's getting you all excited and hyped up, right?
It's so true. They're like, and after those 3 expansions, then we're gonna roll it back and go land before time. BDO edition.
Literally.
And we're like, my kids are gonna have so much fun with it.
They're gonna inherit my account as I'm retiring. Yeah, literally.
It's so crazy.
On the realistic positive note, we have been waiting for the Altar of Blood rework, right? The Savage Rift maybe one day will return, right?
Yeah, no, bro.
We got listen, maybe Shadow Arena coming back, that's possible. They got there's all kinds of new stuff. They've technically the Demon Land is essentially a new concept, right? You're basically it's similar to the Throne and Liberty thing where you're sieging like an open world dungeon where you have to fight to get further in the castle and unlock certain rooms and bosses, right?
God.
Like there's so much potential, and obviously they're taking the Lost Ark accessory and gear enhancing from that, right? The new Karazhan and Sovereign is quite literally almost a 1-to-1 adaptation for the Lost Ark stuff, except you're not weekly gated by because you enhance, you get pity, and then you have a chance to succeed, and then eventually you'll hit the pity meter. And then on top of that, unlike Lost Ark, you're limited by weekly and gold, and you're weekly gated, right? So you make alts and keep grinding. Instead of BDO, you can kind of keep infinitely grinding and get as much upgrades as you want. So in a way, it's like technically Lost Ark plus. But there's oh man, there's so much potential. There's so much, and I mean, I know we talked about it, a month ago when it came out, but I legit have been having a lot of fun with the boss splits and more stuff like that. I'm ultra hyped for. Yeah. My group is in like the top 3 to 5, depending on how good we place each week, and I'm still trying to upgrade my Sovereign to get that. But
the boss splits
I'm having
is exactly
a blast.
What
the rewards are awesome, super fun. I've had a blast.
They should release if they released like 1 dungeon every month that you could go run, not like some Ataraxian shit where we're gonna release like 1 every year. You know what I mean?
A time limited thing or something, or like, the rotation or something. Yeah,
well, they could just keep adding to it, right? You need to bring end game PvE content to your game since you've removed PvP from your game, right?
100%.
This can't be an implementation over the next 7 years. People just aren't gonna it's just not gonna float, right? If they release like 1 dungeon every month, like this move away from PvP makes sense. Like they could just add a new dungeon each month. It doesn't have to be like Ataraxian. It can just be like the co-op dungeons in TNO. Like it could just be, or like World of Warcraft has dungeons that people can go do. And the reason I say that is like the boss splits, people want more of that, right? If they just release more of that, like once a month, like here's a new boss every month, right? To go do, that would be sick. People would enjoy that. And eventually you end up in a position where there's enough end game PvE content that people are enjoying the game and it's completely devoid of PvP, right? And that's kind of where we're headed, right? So like,
I think the game's direction is heading that way for sure. I think they're kind of slowly killing the heel on the PvP side of thing, which is sad.
Very quickly. Quickly, all gas.
They chopped the head off and the chicken's running around and now they're trying to capture it, right? They're trying to, settle down now. I think that's kind of what's happening. But on the PvE side, the potential's incredible.
The potential's always been there in a PvE format. But okay, let's move away from the dev note now, unless you guys have anything else to add on that.
Technically, the last thing is Dosa Awakening. Dosa Awakening is fun AF.
Oh, yeah, Dosa Awakening.
It is super fun. It's like a miniature Shy. You get like heals, HP buff, special damage buffs, and stuff like that. And it looks amazing. It looks awesome. And it's technically a little less optimal than the Suck Dosa, but it's super fun. The mechanic of combining the elements to do special effects is super cool. But that's all I got to say. I've been playing it and having a blast on it. It's really, 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 really fun.
I only played it for a few minutes and I was having a lot of fun with it. I thought it was pretty cool. And like the concept looks really cool too as people kind of figure it out. It's definitely got like a really high skill ceiling.
Yes, the initial combos are like, just do all the abilities. Now the combos are like, okay, you're going to do these 3 abilities, and then you got like the optimization that's coming out with it is incredible.
Yeah,
it's
and I think that
right now
they already added the quality of life update. One of the biggest things I had, I was like, oh, that's kind of a problem. They kind of want it to be this pseudo buff like flanking class, like it's a assassin, but it's buffing the other flanking assassins in your party, right? It's a great like one-off flex class where like if you're approaching from a flank position and you're like in a party with people approaching from the flank, you can buff them temporarily and then everyone's doing more damage. It fills that niche really well. The problem is the buffs didn't last for long enough, so you spent all of your gameplay trying to keep
5 seconds.
All of your gameplay was trying to keep your buffs up instead of trying to like actually do combat. And so now I think they increased the buff duration from 5 to 10 seconds, which I think is a really big change. Honestly, I think that they should probably be 20 seconds if I'm being honest. Like at 20 seconds is a little bit more reasonable for those kind of buffs. That way you're not constantly focused on trying to keep the buffs up. It feels like more of a pre-buff thing that you can remember to do before you engage, right? Or as the engagement is happening, the really good doses can kind of keep those buffs running. 10 seconds is still just a little bit short in my opinion, but I do feel like it feels like a really cool niche in the game where like you want one of these on your flex team, right? For large scale, although nowadays there is no flex team for large scale, so who am I kidding? But like it does fill a really cool niche in that regard, at least for like the PvE, like the boss blitz and stuff. That's really cool too. So like, you can help keep your party buffed up for those and stuff. So again, the class looks really, really cool, and I think they're pushing in a good direction with it, but this is exactly what I expect from them. If there's one thing our developers understand how to do, it's make a meaningful, unique looking class every single time with a unique theme. There's some copers out there that'll be like, oh, they reuse some of the animations or like the slide animation, although that's true sometimes. Like some of the movement skills can kind of feel like they're close to the same, right? Each class has its own identity, and I think they did a great job with Dosa Awakening in this regard. Like they nailed it yet again, in my opinion, in terms of classes. So nothing but positive feedback there. Jay, you haven't been talking a whole lot, man. I'm trying.
No, you're good. I have not checked out Dosa Awakening yet. I've heard a lot of things about it in terms of like how the mechanic is. It's like very caster like from what I was told. I did have a viewer who said that it's hard for them to play because they're like colorblind, and I don't know how much the color like knowing the colors help a lot when you're doing the mechanics. At least for the one viewer, he was having trouble playing the class, but it sounds like a really cool class in terms of. I didn't realize it was a buffing class. I didn't realize that it did all these.
Yeah, it has its own unique buffs outside of shard
really
buffs.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like a secondary set of buffs.
Okay.
Yeah,
really cool. Yeah, again, it adds dynamic, it adds skill ceiling, but it doesn't make the class less approachable. Like you can still, as a new player, pick it up and play it and have a long way to go with it, right?
And it feels similar to Scholar. The things flow into each other. I love that about it. It pulled exactly, because Suck Dosa was a little clunky for me. There were certain combos that just kind of made my hand feel a little weird, but overall it had a lot of nice shift keys that you can go and press for the big AoEs and stuff. But the Awakening has done essentially what Scholar was, where everything kind of flows into the next ability. There's so many flows, and then a secondary ability that follows up with one or two of the key presses that you were technically pressing before, and then flows into the next thing, right? Like you would use like a shift E into holding it into just an E, and then like a shift F into an F, and then a shift LMB into an S LMB. So your hand is constantly flowing on the keyboard, just like the class literally flows together. I love it so much. It's so much fun to me.
Do you utilize any of the pre-awakening stuff? Because I know for Wusa,
I don't touch it at all. Don't touch it at all.
You don't touch it at all?
It's a completely separate. You could technically use stuff. I don't at all. I don't need to.
Okay.
Even the movement is completely Awakening based.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's got its own like sprint and run and
utilize any of the stuff, because for Wusa, to make a comparison to Wusa, like I don't know, maybe it's just the way they designed her, but her Awakening feels so much better when you mix in her pre-Awakening. It's a lot of her pre-Awakening movement is also present in Awakening. It's like very like melded together. So it's interesting how this like you're mentioning how it's
I was gonna say I don't feel like it's used at all.
There might be some potential for people that are trying to min-max or like a movement, open world PvP kind of stuff. I could see that, but when it comes to PvE, it's very, very chill, very straightforward. If you want to do complex combos, like for example, I've only tested it currently at Izurhit. I've been grinding for about 2 weeks, so like that's where my testing has gone. But when it comes to something like a moving spot where you're not just sitting on a tower where you can proc your buffs after buff after buff, there are some combos that people have like kind of split the rotation into 3 different sets to kind of like keep your main buffs up as you do damage. So there is some nuance to it for sure in different spots, which I haven't personally got to experience yet, but I've already seen a bunch of videos that have different combos. Now when it comes to the switching in the Awakening to Suck, I don't know how much stuff is like mixed in between there, but I mean it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that overall Dosa Awakening is just an overall W. And again, like they just nail the classes, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just a win
Yeah.
every time. I have not seen
That
them
is
miss
something
on a
they
class.
have not fricked up, bro. It's just making it so fun. Maybe the balance, that's a different thing. But the fun of it, that exists.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so okay, all right. Now we're going to talk about the much dreaded discussion that people don't really like talking about, but kind of has to be done. Obviously, Throne and Liberty released Nerdy versus Black Desert. Throne and Liberty released, and there's a lot of BDO players playing Throne and Liberty, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about like what we liked about TNL as like a refresher, but like what we missed from Black Desert. I'll lead off the discussion because I think that Blonde absolutely touched on it before, where it's like, okay, the longevity of BDO is a big reason why people love playing BDO, and he's absolutely right. I think that Black Desert Online is a game that you can approach no matter how long you've taken away from the game, right? You can come back and enjoy the game as casually or as hardcore as you want to. And like, I miss that aspect of Black Desert. I think that that's something that Perlibis kind of nails, is the ability to come back and take BDO as seriously as you want to, or as non-seriously as you want to. Like Throne and Liberty, I do sincerely think that there's only one way to really play Throne and Liberty, and that's basically all gas. Like you basically, you're encouraged to be perma online without much in between. Like if you're not playing all the time and like going to the bosses, you can't get your end game boss loot. If you're not in a top end guild, you're feeling the Zerg pressure. If you're not in, you know what I mean? If you're not like in the top end of players and like playing all the time, I feel like approaching the game from a casual perspective is really, really, really hard. In Throne and Liberty and in Black Desert, you know, like you could just go life skill. In Throne and Liberty, there's no option to go life skill. And so like I think that BDO wins out in the casual department and the longevity of the game. And so like what I'm going to ask you guys is, I'm not asking you to necessarily directly compare BDO to Throne and Liberty. I am asking you to say that, okay, so we've kind of passed the hype phase of Throne and Liberty now. What things, like now we've kind of rested a little bit and we can look objectively, because a lot of us were very emotional about the state of Black Desert a few weeks ago before Throne and Liberty came out, myself particularly, right? And we've had time to kind of breathe a little bit and reflect on the game. Like what things are you liking about Throne and Liberty as a concept, or what things are you missing about BDO? Because for me, it's the longevity, right? I don't know if Throne and Liberty is something that you can do long term, but I think that Black Desert is something you could play for years. So we'll start with Jay.
So that is something that my chat has been, that we had a long discussion about it the other day about how long is this game gonna last? Like, so I've been like going pretty hard on Throne and Liberty lately, and they said, "Oh, have you quit BDO?" No, I'm just taking a break for now.
Right.
It's been,
Yeah, like,
you know, it's been 3 weeks. I mean, I've been playing BDO for 6 years. So these 3 weeks have just been like a really nice change of pace for the, you know, after running in circles for 6 years. And so they've been asking me like, "Oh, do you think this game's gonna last? How you know it?" People were saying, "Oh, it's going to be dead in a couple months." And for me, I just like thinking, yeah, hey, this is a fun experience, right? I'm having fun right now. And so I don't know anything about how to sustain a player base. I don't know anything about, from a game design standpoint, I don't know anything about how to keep a game, you know, alive for a very long time. Clearly Pearl Abyss, I think Pearl Abyss did a really great job of keeping BDO alive for the last 10 years, right? It's been out for so long. And so it's a pretty big success in my opinion of how long BDO has stayed alive this long. Another MMO, right? World of Warcraft, it's been over 20 years since that's been out. That's still been going, right? Blizzard is still
good recipe.
Blizzarding.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm just gonna take the time that I have right now, enjoy the time that I have. I don't know how long Throne and Liberty is gonna last, but whatever time I have, I'm just gonna enjoy it. And so
Yeah.
as for like what do you call it? The new experience has been like, I don't know how many MMOs you guys have played. I've been playing again. I've played 2 MMOs, 3. Just kidding. Maple Story was my very first one when I was a kid, and then second one was World of Warcraft, and that lasted for about a year. And then BDO, right? So I have 3 main MMOs that I've played over my entire life, and this new MMO experience has been amazing. It's just there's so many new things. I think when Blonde and I were doing dungeons the other day, right? We were talking about how, or Blonde was talking about how there's like they have added all these like little like crumbs, right? For you like keep finding and keep wanting to do, keep completing. There's so many completionist stuff that you want to do, and that all comes with like the MMO experience, and that has been such a fun thing for me. Is finding so many cool things to do, especially like the world events, like. I think I talked about that in the past in the Old Moon podcast about how, hey, maybe there could be some sort of event in the world that could congregate players, get them together in this one spot to either like PvP for this like resource or whatnot. And that's what they have in here in Throne of Liberty. And I do still think that, you know, Vito has the best combat system, the most satisfying combat system that I've ever played. But the tank healer DPS role dynamic has been, again, such a nice change of pace from running around in circles. But the tab targeting as well. I wanted to mention how it took a bit of getting used to. I still prefer like videos, but the tab targeting, it's growing on me. It's growing on me. So I play more of a healer role, and so, you know, targeting allies is very, very important. And in World of Warcraft, you have to go out of your way to improve the UI. You have to like download third-party add-ons to improve the UI and targeting as well. But in Throne of Liberty, a lot of it is kind of like built in. There's actually a mouse over mechanic that you can add in the shortcut settings. You don't have to click on your teammates. You can just mouse over them, or you can just target them with keybinds and stuff like that. So that's nice that we don't have to go out of get out of our, you know, go to a third-party website to improve the game. So everything is kind of like built in and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the new player experience. How did you guys feel when BDO released?
I wasn't there on BDO release. TNL. I was there for BDO Steam release, though.
Steam release.
I will be very clear. There's people in the audience. There's always going to be people in the comments too that are just like, "LOL, the people that went to Throne of Liberty are regretting it, going back to BDO. LOL, crawling back." Nope, that's not what's happening. Like, people are experiencing a new MMO release, and let's be clear, Throne of Liberty, I think, is the only MMO that's going to release in the next few years. Right, so like that I'm aware of, like, it's the biggest MMO release that we've had for a while, and it's the biggest one that I think we'll have for a little while, and I think that people are enjoying it. And so, like, I'm not trying to like do a one-to-one comparison, but like it is good to step away from Black Desert, and I think it was healthy for a lot of players, so we're talking about it. I think that Throne of Liberty is a great game, and I really enjoy it. I just think that I feel like it's really hard to approach it from a casual perspective. That's what I'm struggling with. But like Black Desert Steam release, to compare it to when I played BDO the first time, I was a casual player when Steam released for BDO, and like I really enjoyed it. I was playing it basically around the clock as like a full-time game, but I was really enjoying it. I was having a super fun time, but I didn't really feel like I had to be logged in all the time. I just could like I was encouraged to log in, you know, and have fun, and I was really just enjoying the game for that reason. In Throne of Liberty, I feel like it's a little bit of a different feeling. I feel like if I don't log in, I'm being punished. And in Black Desert, it wasn't that I was going to be punished, it was that I really wanted to play more because I wanted to progress faster, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it was just kind of a different feeling, and nothing will really strike that feeling again. And for me, I don't think. Like, Black Desert, like, is just, you know, it's my favorite game of all time. It's just an incredible game. But Throne of Liberty is also a really good game in its own right. It does have its own problems, and we're not asking for a direct comparison between the two games, but there are, let's be honest, Throne of Liberty is kind of a throwback to the old PvP MMO systems, but also has those dungeons that we talk about, and like all of that stuff, and the build diversity that a lot of players were missing from BDO, and that's really amazing. But like, again, the longevity of the game is really kind of what I'm focusing on here, and I don't know if Throne of Liberty has the wheels on it to make players play it for longer than a few months in its current iteration. Because like, once you quit playing Throne of Liberty for like even a few days, you're like, oh my god, I'm so far behind everyone else, right? Or like you quit for a week or two, you're like really far behind the other players. And in BDO, I don't have to care about the other players. I can just do my own thing, you know? Am I going to be behind the really top end players? Sure, but I'm not going to be crazy punished for that, if that makes sense. I'm just curious, Blonde, you've taken more of a casual player approach to TNL, whereas Jay, you've been kind of I'm like the hardcore. I'm leading the top guild for the top alliance on the top PvP server. Jay's kind of somewhere in the middle, right, where you're like doing your stuff every day and you're feeling that healer role and you're in a competitive guild, but like, you know, it's kind of chill. And Blonde, you're more of a casual perspective on TNL. So how do you feel like is there things you miss about Black Desert, or the things that you really like about Throne and Liberty that you wish Black Desert had? You know what I mean?
I think from a casual player perspective, like Jay had pointed out, there's a lot of really fun knickknacks and things to do and all these little things. I think that from someone, if you are taking a casual player perspective, you obviously can't truly really care about wanting to keep up and progress with the competitive edge like your kind of character, Blue. I think that you obviously have to forego wanting that and doing that, and I think that that's okay. I think that if you want to take a casual perspective, I think the game has a ton to offer for a casual player, except for the minute things, which is any of the open world PvP or PvP bosses, or, you know, all the stuff that incentivizes the guilds to fight over things like that. I think that for a casual player, as long as you, like, if you take the approach when you go into the game, not being a casual player and trying to be on the pushing edge, the cutting edge of gear and stuff like that, I think that, yeah, the moment you take a 1 day lapse, a 2 day lapse, you're going to feel horrible because you're that one full day of progress behind another player. So I think that those drop offs feel terrible, and which is why a lot of games have introduced like daily or weekly caps. And I like the things where you get the little jobs and you can go get them and get bags or whatever.
Oh my God, the contracts, I hate those
the contracts. It's kind of a cool system where like it can stack up at the end of the week, and then you can go do those at the end of the week if you only have the weekend to play. I think that systems designed like that are cool. I don't know the intricacies of like the max end game grind and how like a few days is a big deal. I think it's because like our boss is not like daily or weekly capped. Can you just kill them every time they're up and get loot and stuff from them? Is that how that works? Okay, so because that is an open system that has no kind of cap, I think you automatically are incentivizing the player that can no life the game, which some people do like. And if you want to play a game to the cutting edge like that, then more power to you. The problem is that it will feel real bad the moment you take a break, the moment you get sick and you can't, you know, you're like so sick you can't play, or the moment you have a day of work. And for me and my casual, like, casual but not casual, for like my play style where, you know, I come home and I got like 2 or 3 hours to play, and then on my days off I can play from like, you know, a few hours in the middle of the night. The problem for me is that like my friends that I would have played the game aren't on for like 3 or 4 hours. So like I get like maybe 1 day a week where I can play. So in a casual perspective, I think the game has so many cool things. There's so many collectibles, so many of these like essentially Dokkaebi chests where you're running around the world and collecting all the random things. You have a collection log of all the gear that you can combine and complete that, and there's all kinds of stuff you can turn in for that. I love all these different systems. So you're incentivized to, as a casual player, you can do all this stuff. You just, again, you have to forego whatever that end game PvP progression side of the game is. So I think it's kind of fantastic for casuals as long as you don't care about that stuff. But if you care about that stuff, the game doesn't have those caps to protect those players. So the game is not designed around helping you in essence. So I think as long as you separate yourself from those two types of communities, like I'm obviously not going to participate with the PvP side, endgame side, fighting over the bosses side, open world side, PvP, whatever, that's fine. I can accept that I'm in my own little column and I can do my own little thing. And that's just the way it is. I think for me it's just hard because there's not a lot of solo content, so BDO has always been kind of more focused on the solo experience, and then eventually you group up at the end when you've, you know, gotten your materials or your gear or whatever. The game is kind of backwards. You constantly have to run in a group until you go do the random collection crap by yourself, and I think that for me it just doesn't work for my kind of play style because I don't have a crew just waiting for me to log in when I, you know, get out of work or whatever to play. So
right.
But all the systems in the game are really cool. The collections, all that stuff is awesome. I can go into, as long as it's not nighttime, I can go into one of the open world dungeons and kill a bunch of ants and collect a hat. Like, and when it's raining, you have to grind this mob because of the drop rate. I love all these little things sprinkled in. It is fantastic. The game looks really cool. There's just so much stuff to do. There's so much stuff. So like, if you're casual, but you always want to have something to do, the game is just, it's almost World of Warcraft 5 to 10 years advanced, clasped in like a launch of a game, because there's just a million little things, and I think they nailed that. Personally, I think that they
I remember.
Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I was gonna say, I remember there was this conversation or interview between Josh Strife Hayes, who does a lot of MMO content on
love
YouTube,
Josh
with
Strife
Chris
Hayes.
With Chris Wilson.
Absolutely base guy.
Yes,
he's so big.
Yeah, and he has an awesome English accent.
Yes.
And he
Who's
did
Chris
this
Wilson?
interview with Chris Wilson is the founder of Path of Exile.
Oh,
So
I
he was
see.
talking to Chris Wilson about how he was very overwhelmed when he opened the P menu, the passive skill tree menu. I don't know if you guys have played Path of Exile, but the passive skill tree menu in Path of Exile is huge, and he was just super overwhelmed with that. And he was just asking Chris Wilson about how do you approach that for like players who are overwhelmed with that? And then Chris was like, well, that's not the players we're targeting. And so that kind of reminded me of this conversation we're having here is, even though you're saying, it's not very approachable for the casual player, according to Blue's opinion, it's maybe that's not what they're trying to go for with TNL is what I was thinking. Maybe they are targeting that really hardcore audience. And right now, at least from what I've seen, the amount of people that are here, I mean, they're definitely targeting a good amount of people here. There's a lot of PvP happening. There's sometimes I'm even afraid to go out to do some of my activities, like when it's approaching nighttime. Oh no, there's
cooked,
gonna
bro.
be
Shoot, I better go fishing instead. I can't go out and do my open world grind. Frick.
You're
I
absolutely
kind of have to
good.
like schedule it around that because I'm just a healer. I don't think I can fight back. Maybe I can. Maybe I just need to figure that out. I don't know. Maybe. And so, yeah, TNL has been. I mean, I'm not like super hardcore. I mean, my guild we're trying to push, right?
What guild
we're
are you
trying
in?
We have like our prime time. I'm in Brobear's guild. Actually, I'm in Brobear's guild. We are trying to push like prime time. Like right now, this prime time. Actually, I was actually doing some world bosses while we were doing this. That's why I felt I was a little bit distracted.
Yay.
That's why I was a little bit distracted. We were doing world boss. I have to be at 10. This is our prime time.
That was a PvP world boss, right?
So I mean, it didn't last too long, but I was pressing buttons on the boss, and we actually got a Phantom Wolf mask from the boss. So let's
I picked
go
one up too.
in our guild.
Nice. I think that overall there are things that I miss from BDO. I think that like there are some systems that I wish that BDO would pick up, for example,
yes,
like I think that like the open world systems, like I think that the developers could really easily implement open world dungeons into BDO by making certain areas, like you could even make certain grind zones PvP harder at night or something. But like during the day they're not PvP at all. But like they're not going to do that. But like world bosses they could add one conflict world boss and then one, peace world boss, or one like, non-conflict world boss, where like in the guild with the highest contribution at both guild bosses gets rewards for their guild. That's fun, right? Like that would be fun.
They're fighting for.
Yeah, I mean, like legit, just drop 100 crons for killing a boss if your guild claims it, or your group claims it, or your plat claims. There's so many of these things that they could just sprinkle crons in now that everything is based around crons, and even though people are upset about that, if they just sprinkled crons throughout the game, people would be like, oh my god, yes, please. I mean, people would obviously complain and beg for more, but anything more than what we're currently getting is just a bonus to incentivize players to go do things. Yeah, for sure.
Conflict Vel would go so hard, bro. Like
The PvP
it would actually go so hard. It would actually go so hard, bro. That would be so funny.
I think that sentiment rings true, though. What Jay was saying about Josh Strife Hayes about them not targeting that. I think the game can target multiple player bases, but there's no in between. You're either cutting edge, or you're going to be a casual player who, is either trying to catch up or doesn't care. Because once you get behind, you're always behind. You can never get ahead. You can always get behind. I think is the design of a game that doesn't have those sort of daily or weekly caps, right? Because every boss matters, because every boss is relevant. I think that creates a sort of FOMO toxic, like I know we had the conversation about FOMO a month ago or so. That is the sort of negative FOMO that is fun because you want to be there and you're extra excited and that's really worth it to go. But it also on the receiving end can feel really bad because it's like, oh frick, if we miss this boss, like, or like even just fighting over it is the fun part, not even just getting it, but the potential to get it is what's fun. But the moment you get sick, or you got to work, or you got to sleep early because you got a doctor's appointment, any of that stuff that gets in the way is going to feel ultra terrible, because then your guild is like, well, I need someone that's there 12 hours a day, not 5 hours a day, and then it creates a sort of toxic culture where it's like, well, I gotta kick you because this other guy, even though he's got less gear scores, logged on more and he's there more. So it kind of creates that kind of culture sometimes. Obviously, depending if it's friends, it's a little different, but it kind of gets scary in those moments. And yeah, I think that's where they're targeting that player. But if you're casual, I think this game is fantastic because there is a million little pets and things, and then you've got like an hour where you could, like, your little pet thing goes on a thing to collect materials, and there's tons of life skills. There's just so much to do in the game. So it's either hyper casual or super hardcore, and They fit both
and,
of
like,
those, right?
I wish that I could. I'm hoping that at some point I do just take a step back and cover it from a casual player perspective, and then I could do like gear review for people in Throne and Liberty, which honestly that would go super
That
hard.
would be
that
crazy
would be
good. Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
BDO,
The
it's like, why
potential.
are you so stupid? You're not building demos, right? And there's only so many different ways that I can say that. But like
And
in Throne and
interpret.
Liberty,
Yeah.
and Liberty, it could go super hard for a
Yeah.
TNL gear review. You know what I mean? And then
For
I could
sure.
make I feel like I could make like guides and stuff for like the game and have them be really successful. And I think that from a creator standpoint, the thing that I'm really disappointed about with the Throne and Liberty release is that I feel like I've made less content. I've streamed less hours because of Throne and Liberty. Because I'm just so brutally exhausted.
Yeah.
All the time, just like it just
Gas
weighs
on gas
on
on
you.
gas,
It's
bro.
just
That's what it
gas on
does.
gas on gas. You're always full bore, go 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 go. You know, in a hardcore PvP guild, like if you've never done it before, you don't know what it's like. But like especially if you're in leadership, bro, there's always things that you're managing and extra
Yes.
stuff, and you have to be there all the time, and like it's just all gas, which means that I make less content overall. I would say that my YouTube is actually like popping off, and so like I've been keeping up. I've been managing to keep up with it, but like. It's been hard, man. Like it's just really hard, and it makes me think back to when I used to just stream and make content for BDO, and I'm like, damn, I had it easy. Like that was like the easy man. Because I had like a rhythm, you know what I mean? Like I could just like get into a rhythm and just like do it. It wasn't super hardcore. I could take it as casually as I wanted to. And the Throne and Liberty is just really hard. For me to keep up with. I can keep up with like my BDO content, for example. I've released like a BDO video basically every day since TNL released because I still love BDO and I still want to make content for it.
Yeah.
And I've been stepping away from like the Doomer content for a good reason, is that like I think that the community got kind of upset with me over kind of
It breeds the negative sentiment, right? It feels
like
bad, and then it kind of keeps fostering. So.
Right, so like I'm
Turning
trying
up
not
the
to do more damage to the game than good. I feel like I've
Right.
given the feedback at this point that I've wanted to give, and so have a lot of players. And then if they don't listen, well, then there's nothing I can do about that. You know what I mean? And so we might as well just like work with what we can. And so like right now in Black Desert, I'm curious, and this is one of the last things that I kind of want to touch on, since we've kind of gone over it. And again, that wasn't really, I guess BDO versus Throne and Liberty was kind of a bad way to put that, but that was kind of just putting the games side by side.
You guys did
and-
mention the launch of BDO. I wanted to mention that like the launch of BDO was very cutthroat in the beginning too. I played at launch, and quite literally, if you wanted to be one of those endgame PvP guilds, you were grinding crazy. And then when a GVG would pop off, bro, it wasn't just one guild, because back in the day you had massive alliances where it was like 3 guilds versus 3 guilds over like Mancha's forest where the ogres were. Like I remember Rudums being like a spot where people fought over stuff. Like you were trying to kill ogres, there was a Sork in a ghillie costume fighting you. So it was just as cutthroat in the beginning. I can't speak on Node Wars and Sieges because I didn't participate in that, but I had a guild that was pretty active in the beginning of the game, and yeah, you were fighting over grind spots because there weren't as many servers and all this stuff. Like it was pretty cutting edge, and every person that was 1 inch ahead, it was like the gap was massive. But I think BDO has a lot more safety measures in the fact that like we didn't have like fail stack numbers and chance to go and all this, like all the things back then were so much smaller scale than they are right now, obviously in BDO. But the launch was pretty cutthroat too. Like you were trying to grind your butt off, and it's slowly kind of tapered off, I think, a little bit.
Now it's kind of
like,
casual. Do you think
Yeah.
that BDO's lasted this long? I mean, it's still going, but do you think the reason why it's been so long for BDO is because it took a more casual approach? Is being
that's my
casual the
point.
way to
That's
go?
what I'm
as you're
trying to
saying
get
it's
at.
casual, if the wrong person hears this, they're gonna be like, "What do you mean casual? I can infinitely grind and keep upgrading my gear. This is not casual. I have no caps. I have no
don't think
brakes
any-
on this car."
I don't know
Like,
if anyone feels
people would
that
see it.
way. I think
right now you don't, because the gear doesn't mean anything, right? But back in the day when like the next piece of gear was like a huge deal, and you could kill another player if I got pen, and I would like do so much more damage back like in the Dandelion days. Like, bro, that next upgrade was insane. But right now it's like you're just grinding to grind because it's fun, whatever. But
The way-
but back then it was so important.
Blonde, the way you just threw out so nonchalantly, yeah, well, the gear doesn't mean anything anymore because the game sucks, basically.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Like,
that was crazy, bro.
We love Honest Blonde.
Yeah, we love
you're
Honest
only getting
Blonde.
the gear so the number go
Well,
up. You're
I
not
think
getting
that-
it because you're going to be able to kill that player now.
Right.
That hasn't existed for years.
Well, I
That
think
has not
that
happened.
I sincerely, I think that when BDO released, at least or Steam released, because that was like a huge like second
Yeah,
release for the game,
that
right?
was a huge wave.
And that's what I can speak on is it still spoke to the casual player in a big way. And Blonde's take on Throne and Liberty helps give me encouragement that the game will be okay because I really like Throne. I think it's a great
Yeah.
game. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I don't. The way Throne and I was lied to. The way Throne and Liberty was sold to me was that like, oh yeah, you just kind of log in, do your dailies, then you log back out again. Like that's I haven't
You were
logged out
lied
of
to.
Throne, bro. I was lied to. I haven't logged
They
out of
were
this
trying to
game in
get you off
forever.
the game so they could get ahead of you.
Yeah, like it's insane. It's crazy. But like I think that BDO, like at its core, was a better, more approachable game for casual players because like the life skilling systems, for example, were not only really good, that was like the best money that you could make, like is exploring like the life skilling systems between trading and like gathering the correct items and doing stuff like that. Or having the tech for the knowledge on the NPCs was really, really good as well. But like you could absolutely approach the game as a casual player, and although you were getting PvP'd and stuff, it didn't feel as oppressive. I think that TNL, it definitely feels a lot more oppressive. I think if you're not in like the top end alliance, I do think that it's I think it is kind of oppressive. Like you're not doing the dungeons at nighttime, you're not going to the conflict bosses, you're not and you know when you do the open dungeons, and I think that this is a big problem that we don't see in BDO. A lot of MMO releases are plagued with bots. I don't think that BDO ever really had like a crazy bot issue. Throne and Liberty's got a massive bot issue, and I do think that
only
it hurts
time-
the casual player.
The
in
only
a
time BDO
big
had
way.
a bot issue is when we had
People grinding,
in history of
Yes.
speed hacking.
Correct, and that was like
That was more of like an incentive
100
for players
people,
to
yeah.
then sell accounts or whatever to do that. Like I don't think it was ever meant like you weren't scared of that player because like it was someone was gaining an advantage in that way. It was like completely different kind of market for stuff. So I don't think it's in the same nature.
Yeah.
But it did happen, but it just didn't affect players the same way.
Yeah,
Have you seen the new the way the bots are named now? They used to be just like random letters and numbers.
Yeah.
But now they've started changing into like first name, last name of a generic person, like
It's like the
Carol
Discord bots.
Wilson, and
It's like the Discord art
they're
selling
learning.
bots.
I know.
they're learning.
And then the other day, they're getting smarter. The other day, I actually did a dungeon with 3 bots, and the crazy part was that they were doing the mechanics way better than some.
Okay, wait. At what point do they stop becoming bots and they just become like people for a company piloting or whatever? Like, at what point are they no longer bots and they're people that are just like grinding up an account and then get a material, sell it, and then log on to the next
Okay,
thing?
There
they
is
were definitely
no
bots because
Like,
the
do you
way.
team was
consider that
wearing the
bots?
same
There's-
thing.
Jay,
What makes
there
it a
is
bot?
no
Or is it
way
just like
you
a bot
said
brain?
that having a bot in your dungeon was
They
better than
were.
having a normal one.
Well, it wasn't better. I didn't say it was
It's
better. It was they were just doing the
crazy.
mechanics better than the.
Yeah, so it's better. Yeah, like
And
that's
then,
funny.
you know Sardoma Island? Have you been to Sardoma Island
Yeah,
for your
yeah.
contracts?
Mhm.
So there was like 25 of them running around in a straight line, like just going from ping-ponging around. And it was insane. So it was... you know what they did? They were so kind enough to help me finish all of my contracts within like 15 minutes. It was crazy. They were munching those freaking lizard guys. It was crazy.
And this is the problem, is that I think that the bots aren't really as a problem for like the hardcore players. Like I don't really care too much about the bots. The only thing that affects our guild with the bots is that people try to farm kills on them at the open world dungeons at nighttime. And so they're farming like the kill. Yeah, they're farming like their kills and stuff. I think that the bots sincerely hurt the casual players just like it did in Lost Ark. I think that if you're constantly running around with bots and they're
Nukes the market.
yeah, you can't. It nukes the market, so a casual player can't make Lucent in a good way. A and B, when you go to an open world dungeon, and you can't go at nighttime, right? You're a casual player. You can't go at nighttime because the other guilds are going to lock it down. So you have to go during the daytime. You only have an hour or two to play, and then like all the bots are just taking your mobs, and you don't feel like you're genuinely playing with other players. I do sincerely think it hurts the casual player in a huge way because it devalues, and then you get a drop from that, and it's worth like 10 Lucent because the bots have taken the market, and you just can't make Lucent anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So like they did address it today. They put out a post on Twitter, which I read over earlier today.
Oh, good.
That said that, hey, we did a big bot ban wave, and then I went around and there's still bots like everywhere. But like it's still bad. And like I think that it's something in BDO we've been very sheltered from because Pearl Abyss, because they use their own engine. It's much, I think it makes it a lot less prone to bots. So they use their own engine, and they and the game is not free. The game is at least $1 or whatever the hell, right? And you can't get pearls from like in-game stuff. So like it's less impactful to bot BDO. So like we really haven't dealt with that as a Black Desert community. But like this is my first time looking at it from TNL, and it is very disruptive, I think. A little rough. I don't think that New World dealt with this. If we look at if we're talking about MMO releases, let's talk about New World and Lost Ark. First off, Lost Ark's release, 1.2 or 1.3 million player peak, and like 3/4 of them were bots. Is my understanding of it. Like when
what?
Yeah, well, Lost Ark released in the West, it was wild amount of bots in the Lost Ark release. Like it was crazy. They were just everywhere. Now, Lost Ark had a fantastic release in the West. There were a lot of people playing the game, but we'll never really know for sure how many people actually were playing Lost Ark when it released. I'm sure it could have been somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million, but like many hundreds of thousands of bots for sure in that release. In New World, I don't think there were nearly as many bots in New World because it probably just wasn't as lucrative. But like New World was a really hyped release, and that game died quickly and has stayed dead. Lost Ark, the game hype fell off, and then it maintained its player base over time, and they've tried to manage these bots over time. I'm hoping that Throne and Liberty kind of lands hopefully somewhere where like BDO does, but like I'm a little nervous about it overall.
Well, I think that right now the gear is like capped at 3,500, right? Is that the cap in Throne and Liberty?
It's like 3,700, I think, technically.
Is that cap because you can only get your gear to like +10 or +15 or something like that?
It's +9 with fully traded, and then all your skills leveled up, because your skills affect your gear score as well. So like once your skills are leveled up all the way, and you have everything fully traded, and it's all leveled up, you're looking at 3,700.
Okay, so I think that with the game's design, though, it's like you have... the launch is going to be the most like biggest influence of like if you're ahead, right? So as soon as you get to the end, you're just waiting for people to catch up, and you have that cutting edge before that, so you can get more optimized traits and all that stuff, whatever. But as soon as like that's initial grind's over, depending on how long the cap increases, like there's going to be time for players to catch up, and then it will really be determined by either who got luckier by getting all their traits early, or who catches up in time and then beats the guild because they're just skill-based better, not just time-based better, right? So depending on how long it is before they release the cap, there could be plenty of time for people, casual players, to catch up, and then once they're caught up, they can beat the guild out of skill or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think it just depends on how long the gap is. I just think that in the game's launch, it's always going to be like, oh, it's going to be a big deal, everybody that's putting the most hours in, but at some point, again, depending on when the cap's released, people will catch up and it will be friendly. It's just obviously not friendly because I think they want to make as many people play as much as possible in the beginning. So if it's like, another month or two before we release the caps, casual players will have plenty of time to catch up, and then when they release the caps again, it'll be the race again, and then you could just do it, right? I think that it's entirely possible. So as much as like the initial part isn't as friendly to casuals, I think that's okay, and that's like kind of the point. They want people to be excited and want to play as much as they can. So I think that it just depends on the cycle of releasing those caps, right? Like I'm gonna play, and if I play right now, I'm incentivized to play BDO currently, but if I decide to play Throne and Liberty, I'll have more than enough time to catch up. I'm not really trying to compete with another guild, but if you are, that incentive is there. But if you're not, like me, I'll just do my dungeons, do my bosses, do my contracts, like chill, whatever. Go collect the 1,000 freaking pages scattered around the world to get, the cool little points from that. And, it is what it is, right? I think there's room for both. The problem is that as soon as players are reaching the cap, if they unleash that cap by another, 200-300 to 1,000 gear score, I think that's where it's going to become a problem, because then you're burning out. And it's like, there's no brakes. Please, where's the brakes on this bus? Yeah. So I think there's, and the second part of Jakun's topic was like the longevity of the game. I think that there's going to be pauses in between content releases or content the gap increase of gear score. I think that will make it easier for players to digest on a casual level to catch up. I mean, you have to have room for players that are playing hardcore to to beat up on new players or low gear score players and make them incentivized to want to catch up. And then that gap gets filled. We release the cap. Then the hardcore players go hard again. Then they pick on the people that just caught up. And then it kind of feeds into both cycles to incentivize players to continue going. Right. I think that's I think that works. Right. I think that leads to a good formula. You just have to be careful on burning out.
Yeah. Okay. So the final topic I do want to touch on. Jay, do you have anything to add to this?
No.
Okay, final topic I do want to talk on is goals in Black Desert, because this is what a lot of players are struggling with right now, myself included. I cannot find goals. I really don't. I can't find goals. I can't bring myself to go grind the game that I love so much, because I just can't find a goal. And somebody in chat brought up a goal that I might want to do is Ebenru's Knoll. I might just want to throw everything else out the window and just go kill crocodiles or go kill the boats. That's
Jay's an expert at going in the ocean and watching YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what
bro.
I did for a while. Yeah.
Crazy. So I'm struggling with motivation. I'm curious how you guys are kind of coping with this. I'd assume that the way you get motivation is to play Throne and Liberty harder. But what goals do you have in Black Desert? How are you trying to motivate yourself to play the game, or how are you not trying to motivate yourself to play the game in a healthy way? Jay, we'll start with you since you haven't spoken a whole lot on it.
I mean, taking a break is obviously one of the best things you could do for preventing burnout, for anything really, for anything in life. But especially in an MMO, it's just a very, very common thing that people will burn out. And so Throne and Liberty, or playing the other side games. I mean, I played Path of Exile for a couple of weeks here and there, for 2 weeks whenever the new league came out. Just playing some survival games, horror games with the friends and stuff like that. That's been helping a lot with the burnout in BDO. I used to go really, really hard in BDO until I got to the end part where there was not much to go for. And now they've, moved the goalposts even further, and it feels a little bit hard to reach. And now I'm just a little bit demotivated. And so that's why I've been just playing other games in the meantime. A lot of people are saying, oh, did you quit BDO? Did you quit BDO? I mean, right now I'm enjoying my time in a different game. I don't think that completely means that I quit BDO. I still am logging in for login rewards and stuff like that, because the login rewards are pretty great. And so that's all what I'm doing, is just playing other games. Really, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, Blonde, what's your motivation in BDO right now? How are you trying to motivate yourself? Because you're playing now, right? The ironic thing is, a month or two ago, you were like, no, I'm only playing RuneScape. I'm not even logging in. And now you're actually logging in. So what is it that's having you come back to the game?
Well, we had the ball, right? And then I had finished my grinding with Dekiolans. I got my merchant ring, I got my LVI. I kind of accumulated all these goals I've been working on for quite literally years. And I don't know, it was just kind of a good time for me to kind of take a miniature break and play RuneScape, which I was getting into really deep with a bunch of friends and really enjoying. So it was more so that I was just having fun doing something else after completing a bunch of goals in BDO. It wasn't that there wasn't anything too exciting. I mean, I personally don't like pre-grinding for content, because what that leads to is what happened day one of the new expansion. Everybody got their weapons, tapped them, and then they're like, okay, I have no content, I'm bored. And I know that's
what I'm saying, though.
That's the mind killer, right? You're already setting yourself up for failure. So I didn't pre-grind. I wasn't really excited. I wasn't grinding a bunch of silver. I also inted all my money on my Devo ring, which still isn't penned, by the way. It's 18 out of 20, and it's ugh.
That's so cooked, bro.
Listen, I got lucky. I 1, 2, 3 tapped my first 3. I pitied out on the last 2. That's just the way it rolls.
That's sometimes, true. You deserve this.
Listen, I deserve it. And that's totally fair.
This.
But
it's going to happen again, and you'd still deserve it.
I'm excited. But I had finished, my merchant ring, which was a huge goal I've been working on for years. So I was like, you know what, I'm really getting into the meat of RuneScape, and right now I was in the early mid game where if you just grind out a bunch of these things, you're gonna unlock a lot of potential content. And so I achieved all these goals. I literally, not technically, I did every single quest in RuneScape. I finished all 165 at the time, and some of them are really, really hard. So I got my stats ready and stuff. Besides the point, I was playing RuneScape because I didn't have any incentive to pre-grind for BDO. BDO's content drops, and I tried out the new boss blitz. I liked it, and then I ended up getting a guild group where I was like, I want to be part of the top 3, top 5 guild groups, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up, my guild is depending on our times, depending on the RNG, the phases, we've been top 3 to top 5 every single week. That's Nest, and we're trying to do deposed crown prince as a guild group, because I think that their choice had a group that did it, but I don't think they're all in the same guild. But we're working on that as well. We're progressing through the phases, which that fight is insanely hard. So right now my motivation was to grind for the sovereign weapons. I was actually incentivized because before there was no content that would actually make my gameplay any better. So the new bosses are that. So I'm grinding out the weapons, and then they also dropped a treasure event, which also, like, I maybe I want to go for another telescope. I like treasure items, so I got a bunch of duplicates when I was grinding Tungrad for fail stacks and stuff. So they had a treasure event. So I've been at Israel for like the last 2 weeks grinding out that. So it's just kind of convenient timing, but it has kind of reawakened in me the excitement since I'm so close to getting my second Sov, and then technically after that's the Karazad. So I've got all these like little things I'm going to kind of work on a little bit here and there, and so I think that treasure items are truly the biggest incentivized thing specifically for me, and I know a lot of other players. But if you're not incentivized by that, and you're not incentivized by getting gear to help your group boss splits, I truly don't know what's motivating you other than number go up. Because if you don't like treasures, and you don't like, I mean, you can like the boss splits, but you're taking it casually, then, and you're not going for like top times, I feel like there really isn't a motivation other than, like I said, number go up.
That's not what I was looking for, Blonde. I was looking for some like PMA, like.
Well, I gave you that. I just curbed it at the end, right? Like, I mean, I think that treasures are awesome. Treasures are super fun to go for, but stacking money can be pretty boring. But if you don't have goals, then like that's, I mean, I also don't grind like a ton, right? I do like 2 hours every day after work, and then on my days off, I sometimes do a little bit more. I'm kind of motivated right now because it's like I'm so close to getting my second Sov in the treasure. So I was like, ooh, I've only got a few more days before the event ends, so I got to grind, But I mean, yeah, it just depends on what piques your interest. If you're not interested in treasures, I feel like it is kind of tough for those kinds of players that just don't care about that kind of stuff. Like what do you really have to push for and go for if it's not that? Because like, for example, like technically you do need a little bit of gear for Olins, for Decky Olins too, but like you can kind of supplement it with house buffs, perfumes, all these like miscellaneous buffs, so you don't really need to get that gear. Like we're able to, I didn't even have my Sovs, and my group was able to kill him before the iframe, which is like 20 seconds, I think, is the big guy, 20 to 30 seconds, which is I think pretty good. Our trash is like 8,700 on a level 2 loot scroll, so like our group was doing pretty good. So there wasn't really an incentive to push the weapons, but the boss blitz is kind of my big thing, because it's like, ooh, like that's a ranking everybody can see in the game, and that's, to me, that's kind of a big deal. Everybody's like, oh shoot, that guild, but I think the potential, like in the dev talk, the future content stuff is it's getting there, but it can be tough. I feel that.
Yeah. So I think that overall motivation wise, I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with. I will say that if you need some motivation to log in, and I forgot to talk on this, so we'll talk on it now. J Hammer event. What in the heck is going on? Like, can we just call it?
Yeah.
Can we call this what it is, bro?
Okay, hold on.
Can we just call this what it is? Like,
am I confused, or do I
it.
not know? Maybe I don't understand it. What? Okay, so we currently have 3 events. One is just log in and press Y.
Yes.
One of them is log in and talk to an NPC for a quest, which has a ton of cool rewards, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one, what is this one? The daily special token? Is this supposed to be like something that lasts a year or something?
That's the battle pass thing. Yeah.
Because you get one for logging in for the battle pass.
Yep.
Where do you get the rest of them?
I think
this is like 40,
pass.
50, 35, 20. Yep. Is this the new Shikatu coin? Because
yeah, I think so.
If it is, then fine. But before that, what I was reading, the only way to get more of these tokens was the pay-to-win boxes, and I was just like, "What are we doing here? This is insane. Next to the Crystal Revive Rejuve thing. This is like the next closest thing to like the most gross pay-to-win incentive. I'm like, this is weird." Yeah. Like you can get 4 120 stacks, 3 120 stacks, 2 100 stacks, but where am I gonna get 40 tokens from? What is this?
So I'm thinking that do you guys want to say it, or do you want me to say it? They're handing away a J-Hammer for the very first time outside of the ball. Golly gee whiz, why would they be doing that?
Well, hold on, it's 10th anniversary. Come on, it's the 10th anniversary.
Yeah,
this is kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Listen, this is the 10 years is kind of huge for an MMO, right? Final Fantasy XIV's remake just hit their 10 years, right?
Let's be really clear. They were celebrating the 10th anniversary during the Heidel Ball. Oh, okay.
They were pretty
that
hyping
celebration
it.
happened.
This is the
It came,
10th year,
it
okay?
went, okay? And now we're
This
like,
year
fuck it,
marks
just
the 10
celebrate it
years,
again.
okay?
Fuck it, we'll send it again. You know what
Listen,
I mean?
listen.
Run it down. Like,
We could troll it, but legit, that's kind of a big deal for a company. Having one game solo fund 4 other massive games they're building right now, that's kind of a big achievement. That doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? I mean, Blizzard had to make 3 separate franchises. Or 3 different separate game genres. They had to do Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo to make what they currently have. This company has made one game fund everything. Right now
World
it
of
is,
Warcraft
but what
funded
made
everything.
that?
Let's just be real.
Right now, but Warcraft 3 was one of the craziest things. StarCraft 1 and 2 was insane, and Diablo 2 is still, in my opinion, the greatest Diablo game that's ever been released. If you're like a real gamer, you'd say that. If you're like some weirdo, you'd say Diablo 4 is the greatest. But legit, those games, it took 3 powerhouse games to make what they currently. Because okay, sorry I'm going crazy. Warcraft 3 is still played in custom lobbies, which is what made Dota. StarCraft Brood War is still constantly played in Korea at this time, and Diablo 2 still has players constantly leaderboarding all the time. Like, those games are still 20 plus years later some of the greatest games ever, which again, it took 3 of those to make what BDO's made 1 of and is now funding 3 other games, right? We have Crimson Desert, we have Plan 8, and we have what's the other one? Doka V, right? And it's come on. That's 10 years is kind of a big deal.
Pretty good.
You know, if you're a company who's, making this, like, you're going to be kind of happy, okay? I do agree that the timing's kind of funny, but come on.
Funny, like
funny.
this is not.
By the way, I hate Blizzard now. Old Blizzard's good. New Blizzard sucks. Sorry, I had to curb that because I saw someone saying something.
I will say that the event has done a decent job of trying to, like, keep the game from spiraling out of control. It was down at like 7.8k I think last week, or the week before or whatever, and now with the new event coming out, it is peaking a little bit higher. There's a higher average player base with people logging in during the event, but like we're still headed kind of down. We're still definitely headed downhill here. But like, I think that the event is cool, that they're giving this kind of stuff away. I've never seen it before. I'm just going to call it how it is. That's just desperation. There's just no shot.
I don't think they could ever do anything without releasing that, though, right? Like, every event has now had a J-Hammer or a Cron bunch. Like, they can't do it, right?
No. They've never handed away a Jace Hammer outside of a ball. Outside of a Mayor ball, they have never handed it away. It doesn't matter what anniversary it is. It doesn't matter anything. This is the first time we've ever seen something like that. And then, like you said, the token being attached to the battle pass is...
That is crazy.
Scary, bro. That's just scary, bro. Like, this is the 10-year anniversary. I love that people keep saying this is the 10th year anniversary. Again, we celebrated this, like, 5 months ago, okay, in the ball, or like 4 months ago when we had the ball. Yeah.
At the Oasis event.
Yeah, we literally had it at the Oasis. Like, we've been celebrating this now for a few months, and although it's really cool that it's 10 years, again, that's what leads me to believe it's less of a coincidence and more of like, okay, yeah, this is cooked. The game is a little cooked at the moment. So like, it is doing a decent job of trying to get people to log back in instead of seeing a downward trend like we've seen for the last few months. We've definitely, it kind of went back up again, and now it's kind of coming back down again, I think, as players log in and log out for the event. I don't think it's the most engaging event overall. You're basically just logging in, hitting Y, and accepting the stuff, right? And then you're talking to the NPC too, right?
Can you not use a J-Hammer on Sovs?
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can. Wait, can you use a J-Hammer on sovereign weapons?
It doesn't say it on it. It says Artina Soul, Dragon Slayer, Boss Weapon, Boss Armor, Black Star Weapon, Black Star Armor, and then it lists the Fallen Gods. I don't think you can use it on Sov.
So they forgot to add sovereign weapons.
I think that's
to the
okay,
J's
right?
hammer.
You're trying to push people to get their Pen Black Stars to then do the Sov, right? The new content. So that's not
insane.
a complete sellout, right? Now people at the end game can't get more ahead, right? That's a good thing. That's a positive, right? We're trying to help new and returning players.
That's an oversight. It's not even a question,
them
bro.
up.
That's an oversight.
On.
It's not even a question, bro.
No, what's an oversight is the Debo ring not getting added to that hammer. That's an oversight. That's actually insane. We're still 6 months later and we got no hammer on the ring. That's an actual oversight. Come on. This is a way to help new players, returning players. Right? Tap your pen, fallen got armor. Good luck.
I'm just Jay's hammer of poverty.
Listen, don't we want to help new players? This is a good thing.
We're
then people make pen black stars and they sell them on the market for the other players, the new players.
Right. Yeah.
Lowering the market so it makes it
beacon
easier
of
for them to progress.
positivity.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. So we've hit a lot of stuff. Our beacon of positivity. I did that's the first time we've ever seen an event do that kind of giveaway. And now they have these new Halloween skins. I don't know if you guys have seen the photo for the new Halloween skin. They're offering the
very vampire.
Dude, it looks like very vampire. It looks like the bloody outfit, like bloody plus, right? Does it not look like that?
No, this is bloody minus. Bloody plus would be more boobs. This is bloody minus boobs. Okay, like it's more of a vampire set. It's true though. This is like they added more clothing. This is a good outfit, right? Like it's reasonable. She's ironed her pants.
Sick looking. Look at the glove. He's got like freaking finger links where he's gonna scratch you up. I love it. It's very, very like Dracula, Vlad Tepes-esque.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. And it's their first effort at a Halloween outfit in a few years.
Yeah, with no booba, no legs. Yeah. It's actually kind of pog. Wow. Wait, what happens when you take the cape off though? Does it just take off the shirt? Or?
It probably just takes off all the clothing.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Apparently you can't sell it on the central marketplace. That's kind of a given. You should already know that. So
that's good though.
Okay, all right. I think that's it for the Old Moon podcast. That's almost exactly 2 hours. I'll be honest with you, it's almost exactly 2 hours. Almost nailed it.
Very solid.
That's about nailed it. So let's do closing thoughts for everything that we talked about. We're gonna again continue to try to do this regularly. For the longevity of like I love hanging out with you guys and I love BDOs. So we did stop doing it for a few weeks because Throne of Liberty release was hyped. Even if you don't like Throne of Liberty,
nerds, because these guys are Throne of Liberty nerds. Even if you don't like
Throne of Liberty, it's a fun game, right? And like people are kind of enjoying the hype now, and now it's kind of dying down. So we're kind of rotating back to trying to like our regularly scheduled programming here as kind of the dust settles. But okay, closing thoughts. We'll start with Blonde and then we'll end with Jay so that we can pretend he contributed to the podcast. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So like I've said over the last few months, every time you say, what's your final thoughts? And I say, we'll see. Listen, the we'll see is here, right? We've got new grind spots coming. We're getting the new accessories and stuff. That's positive for all players at all stages of the game, except for end game players that hate us. And it's positive for the new grind spots. All the we'll see I've been bundling up for the last 6 months it's here, And then they even said in the dev commentary, hey, we got more coming. So
Dick Rider. I'm just kidding.
Till the end. I'll be there.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they've introduced everything that we've wanted to see, but Jay,
we'll see. Yeah. There's still some more.
Closing thoughts is that I hope the new grind spots are great. I hope they go further with the whole customization stuff they have with the Karazad accessories. And hi, you can find me over at twitch.tv/chickenvt, V before the T. I'll be doing a lot of TNL and maybe do some BDO in the future as well. Yeah. And I like to party.
I like to party. We want to see more community highlight reels from you, Jay. You could do it for BDO too. Let's be honest. You could just jump on that. And be a win for that.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. In advance, because I'm going to react to all of it. You're a hero. But my closing thoughts, I'm positively, optimistic about the state of BDO. Like, I think that, they did stem some of the bleeding with the dev note, but, it's still headed in kind of a bad way. There's a lot of stuff that they kind of need to fix. And unlike Blonde, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they've, there's more to come and they fixed so much stuff at the dev note. No, I think that they have a really long way to go, but they took some baby steps in the right direction, which is a good thing. And at this point, I'm trying to stay away from crazy doomer content. We've tried to, or even feedback content in general, I honestly have been kind of tending away from it, like the United Nations podcast and stuff. I think that people would see that as doomer content nowadays. I don't think that there's any way for me to make any sort of feedback content that is not going to be considered wholly by the community just a doomer. If I say anything negative, it's gonna be very poorly received.
Tenfold.
Yeah, it's going to be very poorly received, even if it is the United Nations podcast and it's done with good intent, which it always is. I'm kind of stepping away from that, and I'm trying to really cover kind of like the positivity stuff with BDO and what they're kind of doing right. You know what I mean? Yeah. From all of us here at the Old Moon Podcast, make sure you comment. I did include just a small thing to those that made it to the end. I included some like background noise during the podcast today. We tried something a little bit newer. Jay just changed clothes. Oh my goodness. But like we just included a little bit of background noise during the podcast today. I'm wondering feedback in the comments if you guys like having a little bit of music there in the background, or if you guys want me to take that away. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about BDO and where we're at. I promise this is not doomer content. This was PMA, or as PMA as we could get it. But yeah, very positive. But from all of us here at the Old Moon Podcast, have a great rest of your week, guys. Oh, catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah.
Hit that follow.
Mm-hmm.